Let's get it, 580 Sports Talk on a Tuesday. Hi, hello, how the heck are you? Thanks for tuning in to 580 Sports Talk on 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and in living color on the video stream on Facebook at WIBW News and on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk. However, you are enjoying this show or plan to enjoy this show, we appreciate you hanging out with us on a jam-packed 4-hour edition of 580 Sports Talk. We're actually going to go a little bit longer than 4 hours today. We got a little overtime ahead of Game 2 of the Royals Diamondbacks series at the K tonight. 6:30 pregame, 7:10 first pitch. Alec Marsh on the hill for the Royals, Jordan Montgomery for the Diamondbacks. Will there be an escalation of beanball wars? We'll discuss, I should say, that a little bit later on in today's show as things got a little testy last night at Kauffman Stadium.
Let's just be blunt and get this out of the way. What an idiot. Well, Castellanos.
Okay, I was about
what an idiot.
I had a follow-up there. Yeah, like who was being an idiot here?
I am a big anti-beanball war guy. I think it's stupid. I think it's barbaric, and I think it's just ridiculous. Frank, last night it didn't really matter a whole lot. The Royals were up, 7 or 5, whatever it was at the time. It wasn't really going to matter in the game. I think it's very dumb when teams do that. That being said, Castellanos, moron. Like, grade A mashed potatoes for brains move right there. What are you doing? You just look like an ass.
Got to send a message for your floundering baseball team. Remember,
what, that my team sucks and this is the only way we can't give up extra bases to you?
What
sort of message is that?
Remember last October when people got mad at me, particularly on social media, for suggesting that the Diamondbacks were not, in fact, the future of baseball just because they'd had a hot 3 weeks in October and were, in fact, just some mid who got lucky? They're 51-50 this year. And Corbin Carroll looks like the biggest one-hit wonder since Harvey Danger. Wild. Guess who was right? Me, again.
Listen. Flagpole sit-up. I just typed in Corbin Danger.
That would be a much cooler name. If he changed his name to that tomorrow, he'd hit 350 the rest of the season.
That would be sick. He won Rookie of the Year last year?
Yes.
That's what I thought.
Unanimously, I believe.
He was a stud
yes.
in MLB The Show. Let me tell you that much. He was great.
In the group chat, the 580 Sports Talk group chat last night, as soon as Bobby Witt Jr. was plugged with a pitch, which we're going to get to in greater detail a little bit later on, Trenton immediately suggested it was going to be Corbin Carroll, who the Royals tried to get in return. And my response was, nobody throws at 220 hitters.
Okay, while we're talking about our producer, engineer, summer intern, Trenton Craxton.
That is Trenton Craxton. He's our producer engineer. By the way, I'm Dan Lucero, and that's Brendan Dworzinski.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to all of you who are tuned in. Spencer Dupuis will be along later on.
I would like to bring this up real quick, and I do not mean this in a negative way whatsoever. I had to get up early today, so I went to bed a little bit early. I was in bed by 1 last night. had to get to bed early. I was out in Kansas City for MIAA Media Day today. And
yeah, really, really hitting the sack.
Oh, yeah. I got to get that beauty sleep when you have an early morning. So I'm lying in bed trying to fall asleep, and I got to check the timestamp on this text. But I hear my nightstand vibrate next to me, which either means we're having an earthquake or I just got a text message. Trenton texted our group at 1:12 a.m. saying Aaron Judge and Bobby have the same number of WAR, 6.6. Has the MVP race tightened? Again, 1:12 in the morning.
Man, I miss the days when I was combing the WAR charts at 1:10 in the morning instead of sleeping for 50 more minutes before I was feeding a newborn.
So again, not a negative at all. I love the grind. I love the hustle. But I thought, damn, who is texting? What's going on? And I look at my phone and I think, oh my God.
When it's too early for Brendan, you can, that's a sign that maybe it's a little too early. But
How late were you up trolling Fangraphs and Baseball Reference last night?
I did not. I saw it in a tweet. I can't remember who put it out. Maybe one of the guys, people that covered the Royals. I went to bed very shortly after that, to be fair. I just saw it before I went to bed.
That's like when you intentionally start something on social media, on Twitter, and then you just hit mute conversation and you have no idea what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Like, send a message to the group. Put that phone on Do Not Disturb. Go to bed.
Notifications muted for this conversation has saved me a lot of agita on Twitter. That's
that's
for sure.
What is it? The Hammurabi code, going back to the Carroll thing. Eye for an eye, best player for best player.
Yeah, something
last
like
night.
that. Yeah. Well,
go back to Hammurabi's code.
My only quip is Why is it John Schreiber who throws like 93? Why wasn't like Hunter Harvey or Otto Zerpa throws like 99?
Because if John Schreiber gets suspended, would you miss him?
No, but are they gonna? But no one's gonna get suspended. It's not like the Royals White Sox from 2015 when Adam Eaton and Yordano Ventura were throwing down.
Typically, you do send out a bigger arm to do that kind of job. As somebody who in high school was pulled from a game so that we could put somebody in who threw harder to throw at a guy who had pimped a home run off of me earlier in a game. We were down by so many. It was the last game of a tournament. We just wanted to go home. But that big doofus who pimped a 325-foot wall scraper off of me was going to pay. It just wasn't going to come from my poo-slinging 78-mile-an-hour fastball from the left side. Nah, man, we put in the dude through 88. We said, wear this right in the upper back.
That guy become anything? Home run hitter?
The home run hitter, no.
Yeah.
The pitcher also, no. Nice kid, though. Anyway, lots of baseball to talk about. The Royals won the game last night.
Smoked them.
No winners in the Beanball Wars. Eye for an eye, I suppose. But the game itself, Royals roll 10-4. They're now 4-0 out of the All-Star break. And thanks to some more help from the scrappy little Rockies, the Royals now have a 2-game lead over Boston in the American League wild card race. Also gained a game on the struggling Tribe. I guess they're not the Tribe anymore. The Cleveland Guardians, who lost again last night. Minnesota did win, so they remain tied on percentage points, the Royals and the Twins. But now the lead is 4 in the Central. It's getting tight.
Does no one in Major League Baseball care about my Tigers under win total bet for the season? No one? They just keep winning. No one can beat them now.
It was Tarek Skubal last night.
Yeah.
They're throwing Mr. TBA today so far. They don't even know who they're starting, so you might have a chance.
And they might trade Skubal in a week. So,
I hope.
Lots of Royals to get to, including a little trade deadline chatter as far as the Royals are concerned. We're going to talk some Chiefs as training camp continues. Some interesting notes from training camp today. Might the Chiefs leave Trent McDuffie in the slot for 2024? We'll talk about why maybe that's not such a bad idea. Plus, Wanye Morris took all the first team snaps at left tackle today. Does that mean anything? Andy Reid will tell you himself. Big Red spoke to the media earlier today. We'll play that press conference for you. We'll also hear some from Isaiah Pacheco and Jawan Taylor, both of whom had some interesting things to say to the assembled media in St. Joe after today's practice. Nate Davis of USA Today released his NFL record predictions earlier this week. No surprise, he's got the Chiefs with the best record in the AFC. Big surprise who he has winning the Super Bowl. It's an AFC team. It's probably not who you're thinking of, and it's not the Chiefs, obviously. We'll talk about Nate Davis's predictions and see who we think he's overrating and who we think he's underrating. We also got some college football content today. We'll talk to Michael Swain of Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network for Jayhawk Weekly. That's coming up at the bottom of the 4 o'clock hour. And at the bottom of this 2 o'clock hour, we're going to hear from the head coach of the Washburn Ichabods, Craig Schurig. MIAA Media Day was today as we get closer and closer to kickoff in the MIAA. And Brendan had a chance to chat a little with Craig Schurig. We will hear from the veteran Washburn coach later on this hour as well. Plus all the other things you've come to know and love from a Tuesday edition of the program, Random Question Tuesday. So what is wrong with you? We'll do headlines at 5 o'clock. We'll play Name That Guy in the 5 o'clock hour, round 3 of Name That Guy. We were going to play that yesterday, but we had our show jumbled up a little bit. So we're going to play Name That Guy today. Very excited for that. Plus, your text to the Top City Metal Supply text line at 785-272-9429. And your comments, if you are watching along live on YouTube, you can jump in the live chat, join the commentariat, leave comments for us to interact with and your fellow listeners to interact with as well. You can comment if you're watching on Facebook as well on WIBW News. Jam-packed show today. Let's get right back into the Royals' 10-4 win. And for one final time, let's note the win total for the Royals relative to last year's win total, because the Royals have matched it from 2023. They have gone from 56-106 to 56-45. RIP references to 2023. We're not looking back anymore. We're looking forward. We're going Jimmy Butler here. We are removing the rearview mirror from our car, which, by the way, is illegal. Don't do that. Yeah.
Jimmy Butler, you also shouldn't do that.
No.
But he does not want to look back. He is only looking forward. No rearview mirror.
No more looking back. The Royals are looking ahead and are 2 games ahead of Boston now for a playoff spot. and closing in on Cleveland, tied with Minnesota for second place, 4 back in the Central. And the biggest reason why continues to be Bobby Witt Jr. If ever there was a guy playing the game on easy mode right now, it's the Royals shortstop. 3 rockets in his first 3 at-bats, including a first pitch home run off of Miguel Castro, the reliever brought in to face him in his 3rd at-bat. He didn't mess around, waste any time. Hits a moonshot into the left field seats for a 3-run home run that broke the game wide open. I am hard-pressed to remember ever seeing a player hotter at the plate than Bobby Witt Jr. is right now. This is remarkable what he's doing, hitting over 500 in his last 16 games and putting this team on his back. And now, Trenton was actually wrong at 112 in the morning. According to Fangraphs, Bobby Witt Jr. has actually surpassed Aaron Judge in wins above replacement in the American League. So, yeah, that MVP conversation we were asking, what can he do to get himself really into the conversation? It looks like this.
Or is that 12 of his last 15? Now, I would like to update you on the stat from yesterday about his batting average at home this season. On the road, for what it's worth, 270 average, on base at just over 300, slug is 440. I mean, OPSing 744. That's pretty good. I mean, relative to most of Major League Baseball, that is even a little bit above average. In fact, he is well above average among all players on the road this year. His slash line at home after yesterday's performance, batting average is 411. On base percentage is 465. Slugging 743. This is like 03 Bonds numbers, okay, of on base and slugging right now. An OPS over 1,200 is like, he was hitting really well before the break, and then coming out of it, he's been even better. Sometimes you get the opposite, that teams are really hot going into the All-Star break, and then, like, no, I don't want 4 days off. I want to keep playing. The Cubs were like that. They were playing their best baseball of the year, and now they look like crap again because the break really threw off their momentum. Witt has somehow rejuvenated himself. I regret to inform me and me alone, his swing did not get messed up by the home run derby. I may have whiffed on that take, but that's fine.
That's okay.
I'd rather be wrong in that case. He has been so good, and it's the fact that he's hitting for power. He's getting just on base in general. He is the straw that stirs the drink for this team right now. And I mean, you have to pitch around him, but the guys behind him are good enough that you can't really do it. Oh, and here's the other thing. He might be the fastest player in baseball. In fact, 2 of the fastest players in the whole game are both in this series. It's Bobby Witt Jr. and Corbin Carroll, in fact.
The difference is Bobby Witt Jr. is on base to show off that speed, and Corbin Carroll is showing off that speed, chasing Bobby Witt Jr.'s rockets over his head in the right field corner.
So there's not really a whole lot you can do with him right now, which makes that wide variety of tools so dangerous, that he's got the speed, he's got the bat, he's got the power, he's got the glove. It's remarkable. He actually leads Major League Baseball right now in expected batting average. So how hard you hit the ball, what part of the field you hit it to, against what type of pitch.
Launch angle, batted ball type, all that stuff.
Best in all of baseball. 99th percentile in batting run value. He's got the highest outs above average in baseball. He actually does indeed have the best maximum sprint speed in baseball this year. Number 1 in the entire game. I don't even know what to say. Like, I wish I had something more eloquent to say about what he's doing right now, but it is truly out of this world how well he is playing. And the only hope is that he doesn't get hurt with dudes throwing at him like morons, and that he can stay out there and stay red hot.
When I want to be eloquent about baseball, I usually think about what Vin Scully would say. And I have an analog from years past when the late Vin Scully was still doing Dodgers games. One of the hottest stretches I can remember seeing any player have was former Rocky shortstop Troy Tulowitzki when he hit 14 home runs in a 15-game stretch in September of 2010. He had a 2-home run game in Los Angeles on a Saturday afternoon, and I'll never forget Vin Scully's call, just in awe of what he was seeing, saying, he's making a joke out of it in the month of September. That's what Bobby Witt Jr. is doing. Yep. That is as eloquent as I can give you. He is making a joke out of it right now. And the Royals are just riding his wave. And as you point out, you can't pitch around him right now. Vinny P had 3 hits last night. He's been one of the most productive hitters at home in all of baseball. And Salvador Perez had the big swing to put the Royals back in front after they had fallen behind 3-1, hitting a home run to get up to 18 on the year. So there's the lineup protection behind him that really makes Bobby Witt Jr. that much more of a dangerous offensive player because you have to pitch to him or you can just throw at him. Let's get to that.
Just stupid. It's just so freaking dumb.
So I agree with everything you said earlier about the whole beanball war thing.
He's got to wear one.
Dangerous. An eye for an eye doesn't solve anything. And like, I agree with that, but also I disagree with it with my whole heart. It might be my most meat-headed sports take, but this is baseball. And if you hit our guy, we're going to hit your guy. And I'm totally fine with that being the process behind how things went down last night. As soon as Witt was hit, there was no question. Somebody was going to wear one for Arizona. It was a matter of guessing who. I kind of thought they might go after Ketel Marte, but they got Gabriel Moreno. And given the situation, 2 out, nobody on, that was the time to do it. 2 out, nobody on, 7-run game at the time. Go ahead and run one in and hit Moreno and hit him in the midsection. You got a big target to aim at. These are pros. Like, I would never endorse head hunting, throwing at a guy's head. Absolutely not. Not okay. You could really, really hurt somebody doing that. Fastball to the ribs is whatever to me. Or fastball to the backside. That's good old country hardball to me. And again, I recognize that is a meat-headed take, but it is one I firmly believe because I've got some old school sentimentalities when it comes to baseball. So I was fine with how the Royals handled it. I loved seeing how ferociously Salvador Perez was willing to defend his teammate. I just hate that it had to start at all. Yeah. And it starts because you've got a rookie pitcher trying to send a message, trying to pitch a guy inside. And I understand like the thought process behind, obviously this guy's really comfortable at the plate. We got to make him uncomfortable. You make him uncomfortable, pitch inside, that's fine. That's the difference between pitching inside and hitting a guy. And if you are a rookie reliever, doesn't know where the ball is going, you're not good enough to walk that fine line. And Torey Lovullo knows that. He's been in baseball long enough. He understands that's not something you have a rookie pitcher go out there and do. Because when a rookie pitcher is tasked with doing something like that, you know what ends up happening? He hits the guy. It happens way more often than not. So it was nonsense for Castellanos, certainly, but I'm madder at Lovullo for how he handled that because he should not have had that pitcher trying to pull that off. That was inappropriate. That was inexcusable.
So I firmly do believe it is a very stupid, the back and forth, he's got to wear one thing. I find that to be very stupid. Logically, I don't think it makes sense. Your retribution for your guy getting hit is to then help the other team by letting them get on base. That doesn't make any logical sense. That being said, in a situation like that yesterday, this often comes up talking about politics. There's no sense in arguing with logic against someone who is inherently illogical. There's no sense using logic to fight against an argument that is inherently illogical. So the logical part of me says this is very dumb. Why would you give them a base runner? Just put them out of their misery. They stink. End of the game. Be done with it. Throwing at Bobby Witt Jr. there is illogical. Like the fact that they did that in the first place is just so unbelievably dumb that as dumb as I then think the retribution is, you get what you pay for in that instance. Like if you're going to do something that is so Bush League, frankly, then there's really no defense for anything to come after that.
Did you hear what he said in the postgame, Lovullo?
I did hear what Lovullo said after the game.
Quote, what I said was, if you think in your right mind that I was going to ask our team to hit the future of Major League Baseball, one of the best players in Major League Baseball, you're crazy. And you've lost control of this situation and you got it wrong. That's why I said to home plate umpire Jordan Baker, and I wanted Salva to hear that. I wanted him to take it back to their dugout and make sure that he understood that's how I felt, and that's how I feel about Bobby Witt Jr. He's an unbelievable player. Perez said he heard Lovullo, doesn't expect anything to carry over.
I hope that's the case. I'm going to say Lovullo should know better about who he's asking to pitch him inside, because do I think that he said, hey, kid, plug Bobby Witt Jr. in the ribs. He's got 3 hits against us. That's not okay. We're going to hit him for being good at baseball. Do I think that's what happened? No, I do not think that's what happened. But I do think that Lovullo should have understood that when you got a rookie on the mound with no command, that's the kind of thing that can happen when you say, oh yeah, we're gonna pitch him inside. We're gonna make him feel uncomfortable. It gives Lovullo plausible deniability, which is what it does, but it doesn't excuse it. It does not excuse it for me.
He looked ridiculous out there arguing because Gabriel Moreno, feel bad for him. I don't feel like he was the right guy to get him in that situation.
You know what?
He ran right down the line. He understood.
Yeah, and go talk. If you don't like it, go talk to your manager and go talk to the pitcher because they got you hit.
Yeah, like Lovullo looked ridiculous out there, and it just upset me. Like, what are you arguing for? Like, you had to know that was coming, right? Like, whether you're trying to tell Perez, you just look ridiculous out there, arguing. You're in a no-win situation, especially from the fan situation. I think because they might have had a security detail take Humberto Castellanos back to the hotel last night because he got into the Carl Cheffers echelon of being hated in the city of Kansas City after what he did last night.
The 16,000 or so that were at the K last night sounded like about 40,000. It sounded like an Arrowhead crowd booing Castellanos after that all went down because I did not realize it had been 40 years since the last Royals hit for the cycle.
Yeah.
That is an incredible drought. It has been a very long time, and Witt did fortunately get one more chance to pull off the feat, but he flew out to right in the 8th inning, leading off the 8th inning, which was kind of let the air out of the balloon a little bit. But the game was done and dusted by that point. Chris Stratton and Will Smith were a little wobbly in the 7th, in the 8th, and the 9th, but no harm done as the Royals take that 10-4 victory. Couple of more quick points I want to make regarding last night's game. Cole Reagan's not his sharpest. The velocity has been down his last 2 starts. Eno Saris pointed out at The Athletic, his last start before the break, Reagan's, was 3.5 miles an hour slower with his average fastball velocity than his best outing, than his highest average velocity this season. Reagan's is 26, 2-time Tommy John surgery haver. That's terrible English, but I apologize. Gonna surpass a season high in innings pitched, a career high, I should say, in innings pitched. But when I watch Reagan's pitch, I think if there's anybody who can survive at 94, 96 with the fastball instead of the 98 to 100 we've seen him at, it's Reagan's. I think he's a good enough pitcher. He's got good enough stuff, particularly the changeup to right-handed hitters. I think he can survive a velocity dip if, in fact, he's got to back off the fastball or he just doesn't have enough steam to get to the high 90s or the triple digits for the rest of this season. I think he can survive that in a way I'm not sure a lot of young pitchers could.
You worried about that, though?
Not injury-wise. He doesn't look like he's laboring.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't look like it's compromised his command necessarily. His other stuff I thought looked mostly fine. I think the Diamondbacks kind of jumped him in the 2nd inning. They were swinging early in counts, and he had to make an adjustment as to where he was throwing pitches. He started spiking a lot more of his breaking balls, throwing them in the dirt, getting swings and misses on those, as he ended up with 5 strikeouts in 6 innings. So not concerned yet, leaving open the possibility that I might be concerned at some point in the future. I'm not really concerned about the velocity drop yet because I think, like I said, he's a good enough pitcher he can get around.
And it was his first start in almost 10 days. Yeah, he pitched in the All-Star game, but maybe he was just he was shaking off the cobwebs. Because the Royals didn't seem concerned because I thought they should have taken him out before the 6th inning because he's at that high point, but the Royals don't seem concerned.
Yeah,
so why would I be concerned?
I don't think they would have let him go over 100 pitches or face that lineup a 3rd time if they felt like his stuff was backing up in a really concerning way. The other point I want to make real quick, Michael Garcia, 2 hits last night, 292 with a 333 on base and a 417 slug in the month of July. Adam Frazier's hitting 200 with a 256 on base as the leadoff hitter. Think there'll be some temptation to move Michael back to the top?
Move him back up. Do it.
He needs more at bats than Adam Frazier, who's only hit since the All-Star break is Eugenio Suarez picking up that bunt last night for some reason.
Yeah, that was wild. I think if the Royals do trade for a bat, Frazier's the guy they DFA. I don't think he makes it through the end of the month if they go and add a bat. He's not really offering a lot of value. The Royals could use, I think, a left-handed bat, maybe more so than a righty, but it's nice to have a left-handed bat. You know who else bats left-handed? Me. And I don't help anybody. And Adam Frazier right now is not really helping the Royals from the offensive perspective either. We're going to take a quick break here on 580 Sports Talk. Speaking of Royals trade chatter, Jeff Passan had some interesting tidbits about what the Royals might be looking for on the market. And later this hour, we're going to hear from Washburn head football coach Craig Schurig as we get things rolling from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio on this Tuesday edition of 580 Sports Talk. 2:33 on 580 Sports Talk. Dan, Brendan, and Trenton getting things rolling with you on this Tuesday afternoon. Spencer will be along a little later on. Jeff Passan of ESPN.com had a trade chatter column earlier today and wrote this about the Royals. And I'll emphasize the part that I thought was the most interesting about what Passan had to say here. After jumping the market to land Hunter Harvey and slot him and his filthy splitter into a bullpen leverage spot, the Royals remain interested in adding another late-inning reliever and a bat. They would prefer to grab an outfielder. The market is pushing them in that direction too, but they're not inclined to be picky as long as it's someone to drive in Bobby Witt Jr., Vinny Pasquantino, and Salvador Perez. The suggestion there being that rather than look for a top-of-the-order hitter, the Royals are looking for another middle-of-the-order hitter. I'm not sure that's the right decision. I really think they need a reliable top-of-the-order guy. The problem with that is teams aren't normally willing to give those guys up. And the only ones of those on the market right now might be like Tommy Pham, and depending on how much you believe in some his continuing solid play after coming off the injured list, maybe Luis Rengifo of the Angels. Maybe aren't as many top-of-the-order guys to be found as middle-of-the-order potential guys. That's the only thing I can think of.
Rengifo would certainly make Adam Frazier expendable.
Yeah, that's a fact. Taylor Ward, by the way, we've brought his name up a bunch. He's hitting like 148 in the last month. The interest has cooled a little bit on him. I wouldn't mind him as a buy low if the Royals thought that they could get his bat going, but he does strike out a whole lot. That's not really a Royals trait. All those strikeouts, 102 of them in 408 plate appearances now this year.
You think? I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying his OPS has dropped below league average.
My apologies for the rudeness. Think Chisholm probably going to be too pricey.
Jazz Chisholm's going to cost a lot.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Given what his market looks like, I figured that would probably be the case.
And again, I like the player. I think he's fun to watch. It's a lot of strikeouts, and I'm not sure he's your top-of-the-order guy necessarily. I mean, 104 strikeouts and 412 plate appearances. Say this for Michael Garcia. The man puts the ball in play. Mm-hmm. Only 6 strikeouts this month while he's hitting, 290. What did I had the number? 292 in the month of July. I'd rather try Michael Garcia again at leadoff before I tried to wedge a strikeout guy into that leadoff spot.
Is there a certain Rockies middle infielder that could be available? I assume he would also be very pricey. Talking about Brendan Rodgers.
You're talking about Brendan Rodgers? I think the Rockies would come off of Rodgers for a good offer. I don't think he's their long-term second baseman.
Mm-hmm. He can't be under team control for more than another year.
I think he's got a year, maybe 2.
This is his 6th year in the league. Wow,
yeah, he's dealt with some injuries. He is still ARB eligible next season.
Okay. Nothing special, but
not a great on base guy. Only a 306 on base in Denver. That obviously plays much worse. I don't think he's a solution. I do think he's a very good defender. He's won a Gold Glove, and would fit in with the run prevention thing that the Royals like. If the Royals were going to call on anybody in Colorado, it ought to be Ryan McMahon to play third. But it doesn't sound like McMahon's going anywhere. In fact,
that's what I figured.
Well, he has publicly said, please don't trade me. I have a 4-month-old at home, and I don't want to move right now, which relatable.
Well, I will say this regarding Rodgers, and I don't know that he'd be available. He's got an OPS plus of 88 for the year, which is impacted by where you play, which is significant. Here are some notable OPS pluses for the Royals this year. Michael Garcia, 77. Kyle Isbell, 84. Adam Frazier, 61. Garrett Hampson, 82. 53 for old Nick Lofton. Like,
your point being, and it's well taken, it ain't hard to upgrade.
Right, and I bring up that name in particular, not because I think that's the piece that's going to get them to the World Series. I'm just looking to buoy the back, whether he's leading off or whether you're hitting him 7th. I'm just looking for someone to buoy the lineup a little bit. That's a floor raiser right there. Maybe not a ton. You're not going ground floor to second floor there, but you're like putting some front steps on the house. That's what you're doing with a move like that.
You'd feel pretty good about his defense there at second base, especially if you have trouble getting Massey in the lineup. He really is a good glove man, and I think if he made the Rockies a good offer, that is a move they'd make. But it would be, I think, a surprise, and I just don't think it's the right decision for the Royals to go after a middle-of-the-order guy, especially if Hunter Renfrow keeps hitting. Another home run last night, and I think he's the lineup lengthener they've been looking for on his current form.
Yep.
Now they need the igniter, and I think that's what they need to be looking for.
Ever since his horrible April, he's hitting over 300 since May 1st.
Yeah.
Really, really good.
We'll take a break. When we come back, we're going to hear from Craig Schurig, the head coach of the Washburn-Ichabod football team from MIAA Media Day earlier today. That's next on 580 Sports Talk. Sports Talk from the Kansas Drive to Zero studios. Today was MIAA Football Media Day in Kansas City, and Brendan Dworzinski, you were there.
Indeed, I was. It was fun to see everyone out there. Washburn, Coach Craig Schurig, who we'll hear from momentarily, was there. Jordan Finnessy, Connor Searcy as well, the player representatives for Washburn. A lot of excitement in the league this year. A lot of really high-profile non-conference games. First time the MIAA's had non-con games in a long time. The schedule is all kinds of weird for this year with the off week. Washburn's comes week 2. So we talked a little bit about that with Craig Schurig, what he thinks about his team this year, including some interesting notes on the quarterback room with a returning starter coming back. That and a whole lot more. So without further ado, here is 23rd year head coach of the Washburn-Ichabods, Craig Schurig.
We are live from MIAA Media Day in Kansas City. Brendan Dworzinski here with you, now joined by the 23rd year head coach of the Washburn-Ichabods, Craig Schurig. Again, 23 years. How about that? When you have a day like this, when we're celebrating MIAA football, getting ready for the season, how different does year 23 on this day feel from year 1, year 2, or at least as far back as you can remember?
It's hard to imagine that it's gone by that fast, you know. And then one of the things Gene said when we were coming in, Gene Castle said, you know, we have like 4 guys that are going to be on our team this next year that either coached or their dads played at Washburn, you know, just prior to that. So, you know, when you put it in those terms, you're like, yeah, I'm coaching the kids' sons, and it's kind of cool, but it does fly by. But then, you know, your mindset is, okay, we're on to to this year in the first game. So, but we've been blessed to have really good players and really good coaching staff and great support. So that's been great.
Obviously, this is always an exciting time of year, but coming off of a tough campaign last season, I know you guys had a good spring, and you were telling us during your press conference you can only have so much contact during the summer. So to know that fall camp is coming up, to know that first game is just a month away, how exciting is it to know that you've got an opportunity to bounce back from that tough season? Yeah,
you could tell with our players. I was really proud of our players coming off the season, how their mindset was in January and February, and then leading into spring practice. And then their mindset since then has been just work. And they talk about, hey, we need to right the ship and all that kind of stuff. But then their actions show that. So we're anxious as a coaching staff to get started August 5th. And we anticipate, our new recruits coming in and adding to the competition that we have. But then also the guys that were here in the spring really taking off. And I anticipate them having had really good summers to us being much further ahead come August 5th and 6th than we were, April 3rd and 4th when we ended spring ball.
And how much farther ahead can you be knowing that, this is still going to be a really young roster, one of the youngest in the MIAA, to know so many of those guys have playing experience. They might be young age-wise, but playing-wise, they've got a whole season under their belts.
I think that's the key. So we'll have a lot of sophomores and even some freshmen, but they played in 3 games last year, or the sophomores played in a lot more, but they have playing time. So they were kind of indoctrinated earlier than we wanted to, but they have playing experience. So that's why the work ethic, I think, was so good out of spring and hopefully the summer, was the fact that they got a taste of what it's like in the MIAA. So until you play in it, you don't understand how physical it is and the type of teams that you're going to play. So, yes, on paper we're youthful, but we have playing experience, and I'm hoping that leads to really rapid improvement for our team.
Craig Schurig is our guest, head coach of the Washburn Ichabods. You mentioned August 5th is the start of camp this year. That first game coming up then, August 29th, just 24 days. I imagine that part of it is exciting that we get to turn around, we get to play right away. But what are some of the challenges with having such a short turnaround at the start of the season?
It is. You kind of have to slam it all in. As a coach, you'd like to have, a full 4 weeks or 5 weeks, but the rules don't allow that. So that's why it's so important that the guys come in shape. You don't have time to get them in shape necessarily. And then you're playing a team that's very unique. So Emporia does a lot of unique things offensively with their spread system. They also do some unique things defensively. So they're a tough one to prepare for in that shortened week or that shortened time frame. So we'll worry about ourselves for 2.5 weeks, and then we'll flip it over to Emporia and try to get ready for the stuff that they do.
With the way the calendar shakes out this year, getting the bye week, which normally it's an 11-week sprint through the season, you get the bye this year, and it's really unique for Washburn this season, getting it in week 2. So it's an early game, then a really long time off before that second game. Do you like having the early bye, or would you maybe prefer that a little bit later in the year?
Typically you would put it later in the year if you had the perfect scenario. But for us, I think it's really good this year because we're a young football team. So we can have that after the first game versus Emporia. We'll have, a week and a half to get us resettled for a very tough game against Colorado Mines. So it gives us having that bye week. I was really pleased that Coach Higgins and I were able to get that game on the Thursday night. Now both of us have a little time to regroup after that first game. And a lot of times you see a massive improvement in your team's performance and how they play from week 1 to week 2. And now with extra practice time, we hope to see, big improvement there. And when you have a young group like we have, I think practices are always important for everybody, but practices for a young football team are critical.
To play Mines, a school obviously near and dear to your heart, who you guys have played in the past during your career. They're one of the best teams in the country, but they're coming to Topeka. To get that game against such a good team, to get it at home, how much are you looking forward to that? More than anything, just as a test of your guys early in the year.
Yeah, I think just like you mentioned, it'll be a test. So we're going to get tested right out of the gate against Emporia, who'll be one of the top teams in the conference. And then we play another team will be ranked nationally at home. So we'll really get a judge of our football team in those first 2 weeks. Mines has done a tremendous job. We did have a nice series with them, and I think it helped both teams. We brought a different style of play than they normally see. And then we played a very good football team. They have built that program up, and obviously with 2 years in a row going to the national championship game, they're very solid. So, but our kids, I think, see that with the early schedule. Hey, we play these two teams right away. We need to be ready. And so hopefully that was a motivation for them all summer.
Just wanted to ask, big picture with the MIAA, realignment has been the big story with college sports for better part of a decade at this point. And it's happening now in the MIAA too. Northeastern in kind of a state of flux, but also in the non-football sports, Arkansas Fort Smith joining the league. Obviously that hasn't impacted football yet, but just what do you think about the direction of the conference and being aggressive to maybe add new members?
No, I think it's smart. I think as you look at the landscape of college football and college athletics in general, it can change in a heartbeat. And you saw that at the Division I level, where you'd think it would take years to do what they did in the span of 3 months. I mean, they totally changed the conferences. And so Division II has to look at realignments also, and maybe you become a master conference, 20-some teams, and you play a north-south and all that kind of stuff. You just don't know. Teams have a number of teams in the landscape of Division II, to be honest, over the last 10 years have moved up to the 1AA. And so you've lost some of those regional teams like that. And so I think Mike Racy and the conference and the presidents, they realize this. So they're looking at, hey, whether it's football or not, you add teams, you make your conference bigger, and it becomes stronger in numbers.
We're joined by Craig Schurig, Washburn football head coach. I can't believe we've gone this long without talking about the glamour position, the quarterbacks. And obviously Sam Van Dyne, in the face of a tough situation and plenty of adversity last year, put together a really impressive true freshman campaign. What do you like about the quarterback room going into this year? He's obviously very talented. He's got the experience. Keller Hurla, I know you liked him a lot going into his redshirt freshman season a year ago. What are you hoping the competition looks like in that room as we start the year? Yeah,
obviously Sam will have a leg up, and we anticipate him kind of being the leader. He's very poised. I think he showed a lot of poise last year, man, and it was very impressive how he handled it. Keller Hurla is a guy that I thought had a great spring, and he's a very athletic guy, and I think he can add to that. And then Hayden Clark is kind of got a combination of skills that's similar to Sam, and it's similar to Keller. So he's kind of the guy in the middle that we hope to get really good reps in fall camp. So we feel like the quarterback room is strong. They're still youthful. Sam's got the most playing experience, so he kind of has a leg up on everybody. But I feel really good about that room. Last year at this time we had Kellen Simoncic, and he was by far the number one, and we were just going to nurse these guys along and get them each some playing time, and that's not the way it turned out. But hopefully we're stronger for it, going into this year. And all those guys they get along well. They're very team oriented. And so the chemistry there with three quarterbacks that will be competing is really good. Coach Dane Seminole coaches them, and he's done a really nice job. Nurturing that chemistry.
The quarterback play around this conference, a lot of guys who are coming back. Then you've got a team like Emporia State that is going to have a new quarterback. Gleason leaves, but they've got plenty of talent battling for that. Zabrowski back at UCM, obviously. Just when you look big picture at the MIAA this year, what do you make of the quarterbacks and I guess really the offenses in general?
Yeah, the offenses really were explosive last year, and obviously Central Missouri with Zabrowski was the lead one, but there were 5 or 6 offenses that were powerful. So it'll be interesting this year. Some of those quarterbacks have left, so we'll see what happens. But you still have some of those leaders, like you mentioned, Zabrowski. He's returning, Division II Player of the Year. So hopefully, we're hoping Emporia takes a little time to determine to get their quarterback of the future, and they don't come out of the gate with a strong quarterback performance. As a quarterback goes, a lot rides on that with your team, obviously, and every brand of football, high school, college, and pro. And our conference has had really good quarterbacks. Last year at this time, it's funny how a season goes. Last year at this time, Central Missouri was the team that who's going to be your quarterback, and they weren't sure. And then boom, after week 1, you're like, hey, they got someone really good, and they had one heck of a year. So you just never know if there's going to be a breakout year like that too.
Goes without saying last year that the injuries were such a difficult thing for you guys to overcome. Jordan Finney is here with you guys today, who obviously missed the majority of the season. Justice on the defensive side too, plenty of guys offensively. injuries can happen. That's part of football. But when you go into a year healthy and you get to see these guys get ready, especially the veterans who missed such a key part of their athletic primes, how much are you, or how excited are you to see them take another step and get back on the field? And how excited are you to see them lead by example on the field?
Right. Yeah, that was one thing with the guys that got hurt last year. Their leadership was still really neat to witness as a coach, because they didn't just hang it up. Sometimes mentally a guy can just be down, and they never did that. They still pushed the other guys, and so they were there as coaches, mentors, friends of the guys that were playing. And then they've, sometimes it makes you tougher too as a competitor. So when you go through all that rehab and you get back, you don't take for granted the opportunity to play the game. So we're kind of seeing that in their leadership role now, and they want to make the most of this year, because you never know when it can be taken away from you with an injury. And then the youthful guys that played, they still have all that enthusiasm, but it's kind of been a neat mix of that, where guys have seen how the game can change in a heartbeat with one play, and then you're out for the season, but now they're back and hungry to kind of replace what we did last year, that kind of thing. So, what I've seen as a coach through my years is usually when guys have injury year, that next year they come back stronger, better, all that. And a lot of it has to do with the motivation and the toughness that they develop because of the injury.
Coaching is obviously a year-round job at this point. There's not a whole lot of downtime in general. You got about 2 weeks before camp starts. What are you doing to soak up the rest of that time before you get on the field?
We were pretty organized as a coaching staff, offense and defense, so we've already done a lot of the stuff. And then so we've got, all we're doing now really is putting together scripts for practices, staying in touch with our players, making sure they have everything done for report date and all that kind of stuff. And to be honest, over the next week and a half, we'll just touch up on some things. Washburn does a big fundraiser with our golf tournament, and that'll be the Thursday, Friday before we report, and that's up at Firekeeper. And so we get a lot of alumni back. It's a great event and rekindle some of the relationships you have with all the players and all that kind of stuff. So that's fun. I'll probably get away for a couple of days early next week just to refresh, and then we'll hit the ground running on Saturday. Well, Saturday, Sunday are check-in days, and then looking forward to Monday, August 5th to, start the season off and get going.
Just over a month away from game one against Emporia State, year 23 for head coach Craig Schurig, joining us today from MIAA Media Days. Coach, we appreciate it as always.
Thank you, and look forward to working with you all season.
So that was Craig Schurig, Brendan.
Yeah, great stuff from Coach Schurig. Again, we are just over a month away. August 29th is week 1, and we'll hear from a couple of Washburn players, Jordan Finnessy and Connor Searcy, later this week.
Coming up in the 3 o'clock hour, we're talking Chiefs, the latest news and notes from training camp. Plus, we'll hear from Andy Reid, Juwan Taylor, and Isaiah Pacheco. And we'll do a round of Random Question Tuesday as well. So hang with us after the national and local news from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. This is the Tuesday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Hour number 2, 580 Sports Talk on this Tuesday afternoon. Hope your day's been a good one. And we appreciate you spending part of it with us here on 580 Sports Talk. Dan Lucero, Brendan Dworzinski, and Trenton Kraxner, the crew with you this afternoon. Spencer Dupuis will be along in a little while. We are live on 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online worldwide at 580WIBW.com. And you can check out the video stream as well. We are on our YouTube channel. 580 Sports Talk is the YouTube channel. Subscribe at YouTube to 580 Sports Talk. All it costs you is a click or the tap of a thumb. If you're on your mobile device, you can be notified about when we go live. You can watch all of our live content. You can watch all of our archived content. You go back into the stacks and watch old episodes of the show or old game reactions, things like that. And if you're watching live, you can get in the YouTube live chat. We love to see folks in the YouTube live chat. You can also text the show. The Top City Metal Supply text line is open for business. That's 785-272-9429. From construction sites to renovations, from the farm to the garage, Top City Metal Supply understands the value of precision and cost efficiency. No more wasted materials, no more wasted money, just metal cut to the exact size you need. Top City Metal Supply, South Topeka Boulevard, just north of Forbes Field. Again, that number is 785-272-9429.
May I distract us for one moment?
Of course.
I just saw a video on my Twitter timeline. It's only like 7 seconds long. A whale off the coast of Portsmouth, New Hampshire, leapt out of the water and crushed a little fishing boat.
I have seen this video.
This rules. Let's go whale. Let's go whale.
I ain't gonna lie. I was looking for what is wrong with you story today, and one involved like someone being surrounded out swimming on like a paddle boat or something like that by like a bunch of whales. But I didn't know if that was like, it just came up. I was like, well, that had to be terrifying out in the middle of the ocean, and like the biggest animal in the world is like surrounding you with its brethren.
Yeah.
I want to be very clear. I think I've said this before, probably in relation to what is wrong with you. We as the human race are not scared enough of the ocean and the things that live in the ocean and what those things and what the ocean itself can do to us.
I am far it's survival of the fittest, the food chain, all that. Like we go where we need to go, we eat what we need to eat. I've got no problem with that. But I am also of the belief that if the animals want to fight back, they have that right. Yeah, if you're cornered, what are you going to do? You're going to fight for your life.
What are the stand your ground laws in New Hampshire for whales?
There might not be any. This might be unprecedented. But what was it? Because there were whales that were attacking cruise ships off the coast of Italy a couple of years ago. Remember that?
Yeah, I do.
All in favor of the whale. You do what you got to do, Shamu. Like that. Yeah. That's your thing. What was it? Sea turtles that were knocking people off surfboards in the Pacific Ocean. Awesome. Yes. Hell yeah. That rules.
You're in their home. And you better play by their rules. And if they don't like how you're playing, then they're going to. You see the guy just go leaping off the boat. And then the kid in the foreground fishing on his little boat. You can see him turn around like, maybe I'd better get out of the water.
Uh-oh.
Bro, you know how cold the water has to be too? Like, that's jumping into an ice bath.
I want to watch this video on repeat, and I want it set to the music from the Pacific Life commercial, which is my favorite commercial of the... they slap the water in tune with the music. My favorite commercial. I saw it the other day. I think I saw it during the Open Championship. I was watching the golf. And it reminds me of college football. Like that is the commercial sound of college football to me, is the Pacific Life whale slap commercial. I love it with my whole heart. I even said, like, I watched the commercial, I was like singing along, like humming along to the song, like you were just doing. And then I told my wife by way of explanation, I like it when the whales slap the water. And she just looked at me and shook her head like, I married a 13-year-old. Why did I do this?
I just looked up the story. The guys that you see in the video, the brothers, they saved those people. No one died. Like, all those people that got knocked off that boat were saved by the boat that's recording, the people recording from that boat.
Good.
So,
that's good to know. I'm glad I did not see whale aside on my Twitter timeline. I'd be a little uncomfortable with that.
Well, I think it'd be homicide, right? Because the people would die.
Yeah, you're right. Right. Whale homicide.
I will say this: if you're at some point in time, we're going to get like actual commercials in video games. That is going to happen at some point, good or bad. It's going to
happen in video games, man. The Pontiac Drive to the Game or whatever was on like NCAA Basketball 10.
Well, no, I mean like a full commercial.
Okay,
like instead of a cut scene, you're going to get a commercial. If they put the Pacific Life commercial or like Summertime Lover, or like those great meme college football commercials. Larry Culpepper,
yes,
Dr. Pepper
guy.
You throw that in as my game is loading, honestly, I would be less mad.
If it's in the game, it's in the game, right?
Yeah.
And you know what's in the game, EA Sports? The Heisman House.
Is it really?
No.
Oh,
I wish it was.
that'd be hilarious.
Yeah, it would be really funny. We get special Heisman House commercials in College Football 25. I don't know if that happens. Maybe for College Football 26. Also, apparently, while we're talking about nature lashing out at us, there was a huge eruption at a geyser in Yellowstone
I
earlier
also
today.
saw this. Lots of ash, very big and black and scary.
Fear nature, fear Mother Earth, and treat her appropriately. I'm just telling you. Fear it.
A hydrothermal explosion.
Fear the wrath.
This place is called Biscuit Basin, where this explosion happened. See, that sounds way too pleasant to have some sort of ash-coated explosion.
Yeah, that is tough. Like,
Biscuit Basin should be like, oh, we have free preserves for you and a biscuit.
yes. Would you like some jam?
That's the name of my breakfast restaurant, Biscuit Basin.
Oh, hell yeah. I would go to the Biscuit Basin Sundays.
Oh, yeah.
9 o'clock.
I would too.
Yeah, I'd tuck my shirt into my, tuck my napkin in my shirt collar, and with my fork and my knife, like I'm Winnie the Pooh, man. I'm ready to eat some biscuits.
Winnie the Pooh.
you get the,
I get
the
it.
visual I'm going for.
I get it.
Later on this hour, we're going to hear from Chiefs head coach Andy Reid, along with running back Isaiah Pacheco and offensive tackle Jawan Taylor. Those were the three Chiefs that spoke to the media earlier today as Chiefs training camp continued. Couple of things from today's camp to touch on, but I want to touch on something that Steve Spagnuolo talked about yesterday. We heard yesterday from Steve Spagnuolo after the day of practice, and he said something really interesting, and I'll need Talk PC1 up Trenton for this cut here. Steve Spagnuolo was talking about how things might be different without L'Jarius Sneed. That was the line of questioning. No L'Jarius Sneed this year. How do things look on the back end? He took some questions about guys like Najee Johnson and Jalen Watson starting on the PUP list and all of that. But he was asked specifically about L'Jarius Sneed being the guy last year who followed around the other team's best receiver to great effect, to what I felt like should have been all-pro effect. And Steve Spagnuolo was asked, essentially, is that the plan to continue doing it this year? And this is what he had to say. Here's Steve Spagnuolo.
Yeah, some of the scheme might change because, we'll see if we have somebody that's going to step up and serve that particular role. If we don't, we go in another direction, find another way to do it. I mean, you guys know, in the years we've been here, we didn't always every game travel a corner. Sometimes we did. We did it a little bit when Travarius Ward was here. We did it with him, but it'll be a game-by-game thing.
So I'll get back to the idea that it's game by game here in a little bit. But do you think there's some temptation on Spagnuolo's part to not mess with a good thing when it comes to Trent McDuffie in the slot? Because he was the best slot corner in football last year. He's got the All-Pro to prove it. And I think McDuffie's good anywhere you put him on the field. I think he's good enough. You put him on the outside, you put him field side, boundary side, slot, wherever. He's going to be your best guy.
Agreed.
But if he's far and away your best option at slot corner, and you have more viable outside options than you do viable slot options. And I think that when you look at the rest of the Chiefs cornerback room, their next three best guys are outside guys: Joshua Williams, Jalen Watson, and Najee Johnson. Those are outside guys, I think, primarily. And if you're more comfortable with Shamari Connor in a third safety role than you are with putting him in the slot for a bulk of snaps, if McDuffie's going to play the outside, why mess with a good thing, I guess, is the thought process there. Like, why take a guy out of a position where he so clearly excelled? Flip side is, if they're going to be game by game, that seems to make a little more sense, because we talked about this with Matt Verderam earlier in the offseason. There are some teams where you don't have to worry about their threat in the slot, like the Bengals. They got Higgins and Chase on the outside. You're going to burn Trent McDuffie on Trenton Irwin or Andre Yoshivach.
Okay, so it's actually very interesting you bring that up, because I was going to use that as an example of why I would be hesitant to strictly say I want McDuffie in one place or the other, whether that's inside or in the slot. Because last season, and I believe this is the case, I'll have to double check my numbers, Jamar Chase last year ran as many routes out of the slot as he has in his whole career, or a higher number out of the slot as he had in his whole career. Now, they had to change, at least when Burrow was healthy in the first few weeks of Jake Browning. Now, they did have to change things because they had to pretty much entirely change their offense based on Jake Browning's skill set versus Joe Burrow's. And the fact that Jake Browning was willing to do play action and Burrow's really not. Burrow is kind of amazing in the sense that he's really good despite the fact that he refuses to ever play under center and they really have no play action game at all because he just doesn't like it. And essentially told Zach Taylor, I'm not going to do this. So we got to figure something else out. And it to his credit, it has worked. But they actually ran a lot of chase out of the slot last year to try to get some more favorable matchups. Knowing they're not going to have that play action attack, they decided, well, one way we can now create some difficult matchup problems is to go with our best athlete in the slot as opposed, like Trenton Irwin is a traditional slot receiver type. Oh, because he's a short white guy? Well, yes. But also, like, he's not a burner. He's not a huge body. He's a shifty route runner. And I know I sound like I'm a Boston sports talk host in 2008, but that's really the truth. But by going with a better athlete and a bigger athlete in the slot, you can create some different matchup problems. That's why I think it makes more sense for this Chiefs team, as much as possible, to use McDuffie in different spaces based on the matchup. Like, okay, here's an example for you. When they play New Orleans in week 5, I'm probably leaving McDuffie in the slot the entire time because they're probably running Chris Olave out of the slot for most of that game. Olave is really good. If you haven't seen him play, and since he got to the NFL, you probably haven't because the Saints have been he's a dude. He's legit good. But they run him out of the slot a bunch. I would much rather have Trent McDuffie on Chris Olave than I would wanting to have Shamari Connor on there. I think experience, I think general talent, I think that obviously plays a huge role there. Now, for comparison's sake, let's go to Tampa Bay. Who do you think is the most dangerous weapon for the Bucs?
Mike Evans.
I agree with that. I think Mike Evans is going to go to the Hall of Fame. The numbers speak for themselves. Chris Godwin, good. By week 9, he might be injured. So, but anyway, I still think Evans is their best weapon. He plays on the outside. Mike Evans is an X. He is going to be on the outside. He might run like one route out of the slot a game. Their slot guy is Chris Godwin. I would rather run the risk of Chris Godwin beating me guarded by Shamari Connor more often than I would letting Mike Evans go beat me with a more favorable matchup. I like Jalen Watson. I like Joshua Williams. I like Trent McDuffie a whole lot more. So that's why I would want to maintain that sort of flexibility. And maybe you're saying, we get 100% best possible outcome when McDuffie is in the slot and, the most likely best outcome when other guys are on the outside, but he's still like 95% as good on the outside. I still want that outcome against the best weapon wherever they line up. So that's why I would say be a little bit more flexible with where you put him. Because I get where you're coming from. I totally understand saying he was the best slot corner in football last year. The absolute best. And you don't have to put him outside. It's not like you're running Phillip Gaines out there if it's not Trent McDuffie, right? Like you've got dudes. Watson and Williams should be able to hold their own, especially in man coverage. But I just think you want 22 guarding the best guy on the other side wherever they line up. And more teams are putting that guy in the slot for the same thing I was just talking about, trying to get a better athlete, because generally slot corners mirror slot receivers, right? They're smaller. They're more twitchy as opposed to fast or strong or something like that. McDuffie is the most physical slot corner in football by far. Not even close. But if you're going to match it, you're going to put Chase there, you're going to put, name any other receiver in the slot. When they play the Chargers, they got Ladd McConkey and like Trenton running routes for them, right? Like you're probably going to put McDuffie in the slot to match up on McConkey because who cares about Joshua Palmer? Like Joshua Williams, take care of Josh Palmer, you're fine. All that to be said, I know I'm going kind of roundabout here, but that's why I would want to be flexible, because I think you just want to play the matchup more than you want to play the spot with him.
I wonder if the calculus changes if Justin Reid would have to miss time, because then I think you need Shamari Connor at safety.
I do agree with
and
that.
I don't know who your best slot option beyond McDuffie and Connor is. That's kind of interesting. Like, is it Nick Jones? To like Echo Boydo there? Like it could. I don't think you can move Like Williams, you're not moving inside.
No.
Najee Johnson, you can maybe squint and see it. I know he played a little bit of slot in college, but primarily on the outside.
I'd probably rather have him than Watson, too, honestly. And I know they'd rather play Najee Johnson on the outside, but I sort of feel like that might be your better option.
Like if Reid can't go, you need Connor at safety. And then if you use those 3 safety looks, you'd have 2 rookies on the field potentially.
Yeah.
With that, or you'd have to go to Deion Bush. Again, there's no reason at this point to expect that Justin Reid's non-football injury is going to keep him out of regular season games, but it is keeping him out of reps. And maybe that's a good thing, because maybe that does give Connor some more reps in at safety. Maybe it does give some different guys some reps in the slot so that Steve Spagnuolo is comfortable with some other options. I know they really value versatility. We've known that for a long time. They value versatility in the secondary. Reid not being around, and Spag spoke about this yesterday too. It's bad for Reid because he misses the reps, but it's good for other guys to get the reps, and it's good for him to be able to move some guys around and find some different combinations.
2 quick things. One, the Chiefs' official roster does still list Najee Johnson as a safety. I know he's played more coverage snaps and was working out in more of a coverage role last year during camp before the injury, but that is at least something worth noting there. The other thing, I think a lot of the mixing and matching in the secondary is going to depend on what they see out of Haddon and Hicks right away. Like if they think Kamal Haddon can do a bunch of different stuff, can play more of a box role, and you do want to, you think you can run with 3 safeties, 2 of whom are rookies, I think they'd be willing to roll with that. Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo have, Reid leans toward veterans, but they've never been scared to put a rookie out there. Look at McDuffie. Look at Karlaftis at another position. They've been willing to play rookies if they are able to go right away. Not everyone is a Felix Anudike-Uzomah who, like, hey, you need some time. Like, you need to have a quote-unquote redshirt year. Some guys need that. Some guys they're willing to play. I think if Haddon and Hicks right away can give you quality reps, or shoot, if even one of them can give you really quality reps, that I think gives you an opportunity to be a lot more flexible with both McDuffie and with Connor.
Speaking of versatility, I think that's also going to be really important when it comes to offensive linemen, particularly backup offensive linemen. I share that thought in conjunction with what Matt Derrick reported today, our good friend, our Chiefs insider, tweeting after watching practice today that Wanye Morris had the first team snaps today at left tackle. And by the first team snaps, I mean all of the first team reps today were Wanye Morris. Kingsley Suamataia took all of the second team reps. The first team left guard reps today went to Lucas Niang, who we've only ever seen at tackle in his NFL career. Hunter Norzad took second team guard reps. Mike Caliendo took second team center reps today. We were talking last week about the change in the kickoff rules and how that might change who's available and who makes sense to keep for the sake of special teams. That running backs and tight ends and linebackers might become more valuable players with those kickoff rules, players who can get off blocks, people who can make blocks, maybe a little bit easier than an offensive or a defensive lineman could on special teams before. That could lead to maybe 1 or 2 fewer roster spots for offensive linemen. And if you're only carrying 8 or 9 instead of the 9 or 10 that you're used to carrying, I don't know if you can afford to play guys or carry guys who can only play guard or who can only play tackle. So I like the thought, like your starters are your starters, and they're going to be pretty set at the positions they're at. Like I'm not saying, oh, Trey Smith, better learn tackle, buddy. Like, no, he's your starting right guard. And Joe Tooney's your left guard, and Creed Humphrey's your center, and your tackles are going to be who your tackles are going to be. But beyond that, whoever your backups are, I think it benefits a guy like Niang to try and learn some inside versatility. Might be the key to him earning a roster spot.
I don't disagree with you at all. It's sort of what we talked about with Tony yesterday, right? Like, we've got this guy. He's cheap. It's probably more valuable to keep him who's been around and in the building than it is to try to go find someone else to fill that 47th through 53rd roster spot. Let's see if we can put him somewhere else and find success. And some teams are able to find a lot of success with that. If you want a comparison for another offensive lineman, local kid, Tevin Jenkins, was drafted as a tackle by the Bears. And Tevin struggled. Really strong, and he was injured too, so that kind of hampered his development at tackle. It just did not work in Chicago as a tackle. They kicked him inside to guard and said, all right, we still like the traits. This experiment is not working out. Let's see about you at guard. top 10 guard in the NFL right now. I'd slot him probably right around 10 best guards in the NFL. And there are 64 of them that start and are playing at all times. That dude's pretty good, really good at that spot. So sometimes it just takes some mixing and matching. And shoot, for a guy like Niang, who's big, he's strong. I don't know that he was ever able to turn that into, like usable strength. I don't know what word, functional strength. That's what I'm looking for. Like never really was able to do that at tackle because he's not all that quick. Well, maybe that's somebody that can work at guard, or shoot, if he's even the Chiefs multiple times in the last 5 years have needed to go to a backup interior lineman in a very large role. Like Nick Allegretti starting the Super Bowl in place of a first team All-Pro. He was fine. Totally fine.
Held his own.
If Lucas Niang is even that, you feel a lot more comfortable about the depth of this offensive line. And then you don't have to rely on Hunter Norzad or on, what's the other rookie's name? CJ Hansen. Yes. Not Chris Hansen. Thank you, Trenton. So you don't have to rely on Hansen, so you don't have to rely on Norzad. I'm all for it. If that is a way to get him into a functional spot, 100% in favor of it.
We'll take a quick break here on 580 Sports Talk. Later this hour, we'll hear from Chiefs head coach Andy Reid, along with Juwan Taylor and Isaiah Pacheco. But first, we'll have a little Random Question Tuesday here in the Kansas Drive to Zero studio on 580 Sports Talk. .330 on 580 Sports Talk, right at the bottom of the hour, here from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. Dan, Brendan, Trenton. Time for a round of Random Question Tuesday. Brendan, which pop culture thing something that is in the cultural zeitgeist? What pop culture thing are you convinced that people are only pretending to like?
Oh, F1.
Yes!
F1 racing.
Thank you. Yes!
I know.
That is exactly my answer.
So I know our guy Michael Swain, who we're going to talk to here in just about an hour. He, I think it was last year, if I remember correctly, he went down to Austin to see the Austin Grand Prix or whatever they call it down there. And I asked him, like, are you really into it? And he said, yeah, I really did get into it. But I started getting into it because I watched Drive to Survive on Netflix during COVID because I had nothing better to do.
Yeah,
and
people,
I enjoy it.
People got into the reality show, and that's fine. Like, entertainment is entertainment. But I simply do not believe all of these people who are tweeting at 8 a.m. on a Sunday, "Ooh, I hope Carlos Sainz makes the top 10." You don't care.
Don't keep me. But here's the reason why for me, because I see it's a lot of college football writers for some reason who are really into it. That and like third division European soccer. There's just constant tweets from college football writers about it, or college basketball for that matter.
Basketball. Every college, if you join the College Basketball Writers Association, you are given like a Tottenham Hotspur t-shirt.
Side note, that's one thing I will never understand. There's like 4 teams that ever win, and Americans are like, oh, yes, I would love to support Brighton Hove Albion.
Yeah.
Why? What's wrong with you?
I'm going to root for Tottenham. Man, you got enough sports misery in your life as it is. Pick a team that can win.
Like, that's very dumb. Why would you do such a thing?
That's why I picked Liverpool. They win stuff.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
You can start clean.
Yes, exactly. I have no ties to the aisle whatsoever. I can just pick a team that does good.
Right, exactly. So the thing about F1 for me that stands out when people react to it, and I know some people who are into it. I have my sister-in-law's boyfriend is an F1 fan, but like his dad was really into racing and like watched illicit streams of it for years and like really into racing culture. So he's been an F1 and like rally car fan for a while. Okay, fine. But most of the reactions I see that have popped out of nowhere in the last 5 years is just like jokes and memes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know anything about like actual F1 racing. Like I've learned about various other sports. I know enough about the Premier League now, just like by osmosis. I don't know anything about F1 other than Max Verstappen wins.
Yes.
That's all I know.
That's all you need to know. F1, they drive in a ring they drive the road course for about 2 hours, and in the end, Max Verstappen wins. Boring.
And people are like, oh, people will tweet out like, oh, Mercedes-Benz be like, and it's some picture with no context. Like, what does this mean? I don't understand anything that you're talking about.
While we're on this topic, we were watching a CFL game last night. They had the World Poker Tour on after. That guy, like, who's watching other people play poker? Like, and that's my grind my gears. That's my old man yelling at the clouds take.
You have no idea.
Like,
you were born in 2004. That was like when television poker was firmly in the zeitgeist.
What is so
Chris Moneymaker was a bigger celebrity for winning the World Series of Poker than like any of the members of the 2004 World Series champion Red Sox.
I could probably name more mid-2000s World Series of Poker participants than I could F1 racers.
Yes.
Who gets entertainment out of watching other people play poker? Like that. I just don't get it.
I do
that and the F1 and. Yeah, just I don't know.
I will say this: we have a texter from the 785 who said it's really an expensive thing to get into too with F1. It definitely is. I do find it funny. There is a subset. There's always in any whether it's sports or music or whatever. There's always a subset of people who are like, oh, I'm into something that's European. It's by virtue of being from Europe, it's better than what we have in America. And I feel like there is definitely a subset of that. Like, oh, American racing. Congrats. You drove left for 3 hours. Ha ha ha. Do you know who owns Formula One racing? An American private equity firm.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's not even real European-ness. They're owned by Americans.
Less authentic. Yeah, I don't believe that it's this passing phase. My second answer is going to be Morgan Wallen's music. There's no way people actually like that trash. There's no way.
I don't like.
He's not a good singer. He's not a likable guy. Like, I get the Jelly Roll thing, right? That's a neat story. Luke Combs, I don't love his music, but he seems like he'd be a good hang. What about Morgan Wallen is likable? There's nothing.
He's not like, well, I don't know. Maybe, anyone who's interested in country singers' attractiveness can hit us up on the Top City Metal Supply text line or on YouTube and disagree with me. I mean, he's not like good looking, is he? He looks kind of dirty.
No. Looks like every Ole Miss frat boy.
Like I don't know. I don't really get that one either. I've heard a couple on the list walking past the 94.5 studio. I'm like, okay, like I get why this is a radio hit, but that's like 2 songs, and he is a whole lot more than that. And I'm with you. I don't get that one.
I don't see it. You got a random
and
question
I like country
today?
music more than you do.
Yes, you
but
do. Most people do.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, for me, this is a very specific one for people like us. What song reminds you the most of your early days in radio? I don't know how much music DJing you did in radio, like as a student at DePaul. I started doing music when I was in high school and in college. I did music even before I did sports. So I have a number of songs that I hear now. I'm like, oh my God, I remember, et cetera, et cetera. So whether it's a song or like a backing track, I know you told me one time, you used to play, what was it, Loud Pipes by Rat-a-Tat?
Yes.
When you were in North Platte, Nebraska, before Rockies games?
Yes.
Like a song like that, essentially. That just takes you back to your early radio career.
So the correct answer to that question is, so I worked in college radio in the mid-2000s, which means there was a band that was in extremely heavy rotation in the mid-2000s on college radio, and they were a little band called Death Cab for Cutie. And I heard Soul Meets Body probably every single day of my life that I was at DePaul University. Not an exaggeration. I feel like we played it every day.
That sounds right.
And I was at the radio station every day, and I would hear Soul Meets Body by Death Cab for Cutie. When I got to college, I never even heard of that band.
Yeah.
And heard them a lot. Crooked Teeth. That was the other one, too. That was the one.
Man, I hate that song. My sister was really into them.
See, I liked that one better than I liked Soul Meets Body, but
Transatlanticism. I didn't get it when I was younger. I was like, Katie, your music sucks. This is trash. Then one time I was in college. This is like real TMI probably. I was in college. I had just gotten dumped. I was kind of in a bad spot. And I was DJing my show, my music show. And I heard We Looked Like Giants by Death Cab, the whole 5.5-minute version. And I thought, oh my God, I get it. And then I listened to that whole album, and it's probably one of my like 5 favorite albums.
That's sort of like the come to Jesus moment I had with the album The Suburbs by Arcade Fire when I was squarely into my mid-30s. I was like, I don't want to listen to this. And when I was in my early 20s, mid-30s, oh man, like I ran it every day for like a month.
No, we all have those. My answer, by the way, The Kill, Bury Me by 30 Seconds to Mars, Jared Leto's band.
Yes.
I heard that just yesterday, in fact, driving to work. We used to spin that song all the time when I was in high school. I was immediately transported back to 100 South Brainerd Avenue. Like I could envision my high school radio studio when I heard that.
Now I want to go put together a playlist. I've already been like squarely in like doing Let's Remember Some Guys, but with like early 2000s new metal bands. Been listening to a lot of 36 Crazy Fists lately. Now I want to go and like put together a list of all the songs that we played to death on WGRE Greencastle in the mid 2000s.
Yeah.
I bet that would be a trip. We got to take a break though. We got to hear from Andy Reid and other Chiefs players. That's coming up next here on 580 Sports Talk. 342 on 580 Sports Talk. We got a lot of audio from Chiefs camp today. We'll start it off with the head coach, Andy Reid, speaking at length about a variety of topics, some of them including the rotation on offensive line, Kadarius Toney at running back, and a little bit about the Reese Lightning sensation, Louis Zammit. Here's Andy Reid.
Right. As far as injuries go, Xavier Worthy is ill. He's getting better, but not ready to practice yet. And then you probably saw BJ out here today, which was great to see him standing around and watching. But again, he's not ready to go. But it's good to see him upright, right? So that's a positive thing. Other than that, it was great work. Heated up, a little bit longer practice. We had these. Herbie, how you doing, babe? Oh, good. Things ramp up. We're in this ramp up period. So we had an hour 55 today. We'll have an hour 55 tomorrow. And then the guys get a day off and then they'll come back. Then they're in pads after that. So, and then we'll do another ramp up in the pads. So, but all in all, good day today. Both sides challenging each other, which means you're going to have improvement, right? So that was a positive. All right, time's yours.
Andy, one of the few changes we saw today was having Lucas Niang be a left guard. Just wonder what led to that decision, and what would you like to see just from that position right now as Joe recovers?
Yeah, so, Andy heck does it. I mean, he mixes everybody in, and we did a little bit of that in the OTAs. And we asked the guys, listen, we're just going to play the 5 best. Doesn't really matter what position, so we're going to give you a chance at all of them. This is a good time to do that during this ramp-up period. So when they're not in pads, just get them familiar with those areas. Yeah.
It seems like Pat's always like to go downfield up here, but it seems like this year maybe a little more often. What's your advice been to him in that regard, other than go ahead and do it?
Yeah, I mean, he's going to throw to the guy that's open. We're calling kind of the same plays, Adam, but he's got guys that that's a part of their game. The best part of their game is going downfield. So he's utilizing that right now and testing it out, and seeing how it works. And so far, he's had some good connections there.
I know you'll have more information once pads come on, but so far, Wanye Morris, just how's he doing?
Yeah, he's doing a nice job. Yeah. Everything is kind of pass. You're not doing a ton of run in here. So, but for what we're asking him to do, he's doing a nice job.
Well, along those lines, Coach, you do have some competition at the left tackle position. Realistically, is there a timeline you would like to see that position settled? Because I think, like, when you think about it, this is like one of those first years where you are transitioning from Fisher to Brown to somebody.
Yeah, I mean, we'll just see how it goes. I mean, you obviously want to get the guys reps in there and all that, but you also want to make sure you get the best guy in there. And so you give them a chance to play with one another and as far as the guards and the tackles go, and see what the best match is there and how they fit together.
So it's safe to say that competition, though, tends to ramp up once the pads come on Friday?
Yeah, a lot of things ramp up there, Herbie. But, yeah, that's one of them. Yeah. Once you mix the pass and the run in, that's what you've got to get going here. And we don't, the run is all curbed down to where it's almost just fits. So it's not quite the same.
Coach, Kadarius has been working with running backs and both receivers. Just plan for him to kind of be that dual threat.
Yeah, I think that's one of his strengths, is to be able to move him around. And he had some positive snaps for us at running back last year. And so I think he enjoys doing that. He's pretty multifaceted there with what he can do, and we're going to try to utilize it to the best of his abilities there. Yeah.
Hey, Andy, the league and the Players Association talking about an 18-game schedule, but it looks like it's only a matter of time. What are your thoughts on an 18-game schedule? Yeah,
whatever they decide to do, they do. I don't have much of a say on it, Adam. So if it goes 18 games, it's going. I know this year it's not going 18 games. So we're going to try to focus in on these 17 that we got and try to do the best we can.
And Juwan Taylor's going to come in here, and he got a rough start with the penalties last year. And I wonder how much you think that affected the rest of the season. And he's coming in a fresh start this year. Can you speak to that? Yeah,
he's working hard. I think he settled down that last quarter of the season there. As far as the penalties go, you started out like he did with the first game, and he got away with a couple things as far as being deep. And and then he got nailed for it after that. So that's how that goes. I think he learned a good lesson last year, and it looked like he finished strong. So that was a positive, and he picking up in a good spot with the OTAs and these practices we've had up here.
Coach, Isaiah Pacheco, it looks like he's been just maybe getting a handful of reps early on. What's kind of the plan there for him?
Yeah, we always try to rotate guys in there, and that's what we're doing. So it's really nothing different. We're not doing anything different there. Just try to rotate them in, make sure they get their legs under them in these 4 days, and then get them going here. So
not specific to Isaiah, but overall, how much is the metrics that you get now as far as the sensors on the players and the data, as far as managing them day to day and backing them off, or maybe their levels are not where like Mike Frazier says that they should be?
Yeah, so that's important. We try to keep a close eye on the guys. As coaches, we try to keep a close eye, trainers, plus you have the data that Frazier keeps track of. And between all of that, we want to make sure that we ramp them up and that we don't have the pulls. First 3 days here, that's when they're really, fragile that way, those hamstrings. So we try to make sure that we mix everybody in. We've got numbers, use the numbers, and try to stay away from those pulls.
Coach, the last time, us and all the fans got to see Eric Prince was last year. Year over year behind the scenes, how have you seen him grow to maybe get some more opportunities?
Prince, you're saying?
Eric Prince.
Yeah. He's been working hard. So he's worked hard this offseason. He's a great kid. And he's getting reps now. So we'll see how that goes and how he does once we get the pads on.
We saw Reese Summit and Ramin Heelbank returning kicks, and Reese Summit is actually kicking. Their path to make the team is a lot has to do with special teams. So what have you seen from those two guys in their effort to make this team?
Yeah, so we always tell the guys that there are 3 or 4 guys that make it because of their special teams play. And those two would probably fit into that category. They still got to do well at their position, but they're given opportunities right now to do that. Now, we've got a lot of returners, so they're rotating in there. But for them, you probably say for them to make the team, they've got to be able to help out in that area.
That was Andy Reid. How about starting right tackle Juwan Taylor? He spoke earlier today as well.
About how Andy runs his camp and going through it the first time, what may have prepared you to maybe be better this time compared to what you went through last year?
Just showing up in even better shape than I did last year. I came in pretty good shape last year, but this year I feel like I came in even better shape. So it's definitely a lot on your body, but you got to be prepared for whatever he throws at you every day.
What do you think you did to improve to be ready for this?
Yeah, I've been mainly working on bettering myself with penalties and stuff like that, making sure I'm up on the ball and different things like that. But other than that, just doing my part, helping the team win games.
You got kind of singled out last year. It looks like you are taking a different approach. How much of that was the offseason? Was just kind of rethinking, rebuilding your technique?
Really just honing in on my technique, getting better with that, and then just making sure I'm in the playbook more. Now it's my second year going into that. I'm pretty comfortable with it, and just getting better with that overall.
How frustrating was it? I was just going to say, do you still plan on using the cadence for your jump, or are you changing that approach this year?
Not really. I've been changing it up. If you see me in practices lately, I haven't really been jumping. I've just been going on the time with Pat's cadence. So just making sure I'm doing that.
I just wonder how frustrating it was for you to get through those early weeks last year. And did you feel singled out?
I wasn't really frustrated. At the end of the day, I'm there to play football and do my job and just try to help the team win. So I wasn't really frustrated about it. Just had to keep doing my thing and, just try to get better every week.
You're 2 minutes on the right side. You've got a good battle on the left side between Sil Mataia and Wanya Morris. Mm-hmm. What are you seeing from those guys? And, how do you help especially a guy like Sil Mataia get acclimated in his first camp?
Those are both great guys. They're coming to work every day, and they're definitely embracing the competition. I feel like they're both going to be great players for us. So, and helping Kingsley, man, he's a great listener, and he's definitely willing to soak in anything that we give him, any coaching points. So I think he's doing well, and he's definitely meshing well in the offense.
That's some of what Juwan Taylor said to the media earlier today in St. Joe. How about RB1, Isaiah Pacheco? He also spoke.
Teammate Louis Reed-Salmon. I just wonder what's it been like so far.
It's been great. The transition has been fantastic for him. Just being that player that is a leadership in the room, and just for me to allow him to keep coming out here and putting that in his ear, just keep working hard, keep finishing is the main thing.
How do you feel physically compared to the beginning of the last couple of camps you've gone through?
I feel great. Being prepared, proper preparation prevents poor performance. So just being prepared.
They talked the other day about you and taking over kind of some of the role of the guy who really gets people fired up now. Is that something that you're consciously doing, or is that just kind of part of you?
Honestly, me as a person, every day I come in here unsatisfied. It's getting 1% better every day, and knowing that I have to find that edge, and for me to pick something to get to it each and every day to get better at, I'm gonna do it.
How have you seen Deneric Prince work behind the scenes to come into camp even better than maybe last year?
Yes, I'm pretty sure y'all be on the media watching people's stories, so y'all know how guys work in the off season, getting prepared for moments like this. So it all comes and it feels natural.
Have you set any personal goals for yourself this year?
Yes, I'll keep them in my notebook and just keep waiting for those moments and just being prepared.
You know, when you were a rookie, you wanted a lot of reps, and you got a lot of reps. Now you're established as a starter, you're not getting as much reps. Is there anything you have to do, I guess, differently when you have so many reps and you're trying to understand the playbook versus being the veteran, being the guy that, you know, is not going to get as much work now compared to obviously what your work was going to be in the regular season?
I wouldn't say that necessarily not getting as much work. If I'm not in, I'm on the sideline, repetitioning, just getting that extra rep in. Whatever you do on the sideline, it counts. Just being a guy, just being unsatisfied. This is my mindset. Just coming into this thing to this 2020, 4 or 5 camp, being unsatisfied and knowing there's a goal we have to reach it.
So that's Isaiah Pacheco. You know you're locked in when you don't even know what year it is.
Yeah.
That's Spencer Dupuis, by the way. He's
Hi,
here.
I'm here.
No need to worry about anything. I'm locked in. Football time. Well, why do I need to know what year it is?
It doesn't matter what year it is. It's football season.
Yep.
The year is immaterial.
Isn't it wild if you're Isaiah Pacheco or George Karlaftis or Trent McDuffie or any of these guys, like in terms of team success, statistically and in terms of probability speaking, your career will never be as good as it was in the first 2 years of your career in terms of team success. Like the odds of you having that kind of repeated success, almost none. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. We got to break in and it's the mountaintop.
Yeah.
And you're a big part of why.
Well, right. There is that part that, hey, you contributed to this. But like 2 Super Bowls in a career is vastly more than the wide majority of players ever accomplish.
Average length of a career is 3 seasons.
Right.
Talking about 2 years, 2 Super Bowls, and you're a big part of both of those Super Bowl runs. You're the starting running back for both of those teams. Yeah. I would imagine that you have to maybe come up with some different ways to keep yourself motivated because you've been to the mountaintop and then you went back.
Well, and people make jokes about Michael Jordan and all the slights he took, and I took that personally. But when you win all the time, you have to find a way to take it personally. Otherwise, you get complacent.
Exactly.
We'll have some more NFL talk coming up in the 4:00 hour. Nate Davis of USA Today made his predictions for the next season for the NFL. We'll discuss. Plus, a round of What Is Wrong With You. And Michael Swain will join us for Jayhawk Weekly. We'll talk all things KU coming up in the 4:00 hour live from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. The gang's all here the rest of the way on 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Hour number 3 of 580 Sports Talk on a Tuesday afternoon. Beautiful day in the capital city. We appreciate you spending part of it with us here on 580 Sports Talk, 580 WIBW FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com. And a special hello to those watching us on video on the YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, or on Facebook at WIBW News. I said the gang was all here in a minute. I'm Dan Lucero. Brendan Dworzinski and Spencer Dupuis are in the box. Trenton Kraxner is across the glass. Our summer intern is our producer engineer today. We're halfway through today's program. 2 more hours, and then we'll have a little overtime for you before we send you to Royals baseball tonight. 6:30 pregame, 7:10 first pitch as the Royals take on the Arizona Diamondbacks, looking for a 5th straight win out of the All-Star break after their 10-4 triumph in the series opener last night. Royals will send Alec Marsh to the bump. Arizona will counter it with Jordan Montgomery, fresh off of the injured list. First pitch again at 7:10. We'll hand off to the pregame at 6:30. Coming up later on this hour, Michael Swain will join us from Fog.net, 24/7 Sports. Didn't get to chat with Michael last week, so glad to have him aboard for another edition of Jayhawk Weekly. He'll join us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline to talk all things KU as we inch closer and closer to the start of football season. And, of course, we'll have 2 new What Is Wrong With You stories, see if we can take down the Dine and Dash dummy. Later on in the show, of course, 580 Sports headlines in the 5 o'clock hour and a rousing round of Name That Guy still to come on today's show as well.
Hey, Dan, did you see the comment from Mark? You look like you're getting ready to cheer on the Texas A&M Aggies.
So interesting. I am in maroon today, but this hat I'm wearing today, and I don't know why I'm wearing it backwards. It's not like a typical thing that I do, but I am today. Leave me alone.
I'm going to be honest with you. Major dad vibe today. Polo with a backwards hat. Like major, I've got to go coach Little League vibe. I'm going to get out of work late, but I've got to go coach first base for the Blue Bombers today.
I got about 4 or 5 years before we even get to T-ball with Asher. So it's not quite that look. Maybe I'm practicing. Maybe I'm getting warmed up. This is actually a Boston College Eagles hat. I'll turn it around. The old BC. I just thought it was a cool, like, retro logo, maroon and gold. I don't have a lot of that in my wardrobe. And I like 47 brand. These are the dad hats. There's no question about it. I think it's a cool hat.
So if you know anything about me, you know, and I've said this on the air many times, I'm very neurotic. Not as much as some people. Like, my dad is, like, historically neurotic. I'm not quite to that level. I'm very neurotic, though. When I wear my hat backwards a lot. I have not recently, but I wear my hat backwards regularly. If you're a regular YouTube watcher, you know that. I am very particular, though, about, like, how much of my hair is showing underneath my hat. Is it off, like, the way I want it to be parted? Is it straight down? Is some of it caught under? I'm very weird and, frankly, annoying about it. You have much shorter hair than I do, though, so you really don't have to worry about that at all.
Yeah, I always keep the hair fairly close crop, not like a military cut or anything, but I try to keep the hair in check as best I can. The facial hair has gotten a little bit unruly, but I don't think Asher likes it very much. Well, unruly for you and unruly for me are very different.
That's true. Can you believe he used to always be clean shaven?
No.
Pre-COVID, Dan never had a beard.
Yeah.
What changed?
COVID.
Oh, you're just like, I'm not going anywhere. Let me just.
Yeah. I started growing, and I had met my wife not long before, the woman who would become my wife, not long before the COVID lockdown happened, and we were all just letting everything kind of grow out. I had really long hair, and I looked like Tommy Fleetwood, the golfer. I looked like an Alabaman.
I used to always shave except during the NCAA tournament. I did like hockey beard, but the NCAA tournament,
I did that for high school basketball, like playoffs all the way through, like the NCAA tournament. I would let a little facial hair, a little scruff grow, and then I would shave it off. Yeah, I was always clean shaven, but my wife got used to me with the beard, so I haven't gotten rid of all of it yet. And there are times I think I should do it. More so recently, because Asher likes to grab like handfuls of it sometimes. He got little hands, but he gets a little grabby with it, and I don't think he's a fan. So if Asher says it's got to go, it's got to go.
Yeah, that's true. Back to the backwards hat thing. If I wear the ones with the snapback and I wear it backwards, and you see me doing like this with my hair.
Oh, yeah.
You know I need a haircut.
Yep.
I finally got one on Saturday.
Yep.
And I wore my, like, this hat doesn't have any, it's a flex fit hat. So it doesn't have, it's like Dan's, it doesn't have a hole in the back. But I get really like
same exact camp, man.
But
I've
only when like the hat,
it's kind of poking through. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yep. I've always been more of a fitted guy, and then I couldn't do the snapback backwards because again, I keep my hair short enough that all you'd see is like skin. Like you wouldn't see the hair. Like you could pull off the backward snapback because you got the hair.
I got the hair
like,
through it.
That works. Like if it's just like my forehead, I don't know that that's as good a look. But,
while we're talking attire, just in addition, I don't know if you knew this about me. I hate polo shirts. I'm wearing one today because I'm wearing Washburn gear because I was at MIAA Media Day. I'll wear, doing high school football for years, wear one when it's hot because it's Friday night. It's still 95 degrees, September 4th. Like, okay,
and
I'm going to wear
professional enough for a press box.
Right. And, Washburn's football, I'll be rocking this for the first part of the year when it's still warm on a Saturday afternoon. I hate polo shirts. I hate them so much. I would rather wear a long sleeve button-down shirt and roll the sleeves up than wear a polo. And if you're asking why, that's weird. I don't have an answer for you. I've hated them since I was a little kid. I don't like them. I'm going to go home and immediately take it off. Like before I even take my shoes off, I'm going to take it off.
You're going to walk in the door and just...
No, for real. I'm going to walk in, I'm going to drop my backpack, I'm going to take it off, and I'm going to put something else on.
Fair is fair.
Say I'm wearing freaking slacks again. I'm either going to put athletic shorts or jeans on tonight, probably.
See, I like the versatility of this. I look like I could hit the links and I could go get a quick 9 in before we do the show. I did not do that today, but that might be coming. I might.
But you could.
I could. That's what's important. Like if somebody called and said, "Dan, we need a fourth at Cypress or Western Hills or somewhere within driving distance, right? Get back at 206." I'm in there like swimwear, baby.
Absolutely.
Call me if you need me to fill out your foursome. I'm great company, and I don't suck too bad. I'll shoot in the mid-80s, and we'll have a good time.
That's a good sell.
Yeah,
I don't suck too bad.
I'll shoot in the mid-80s. I got some good one-liners. We'll have a good time together. If we get together on the links. Anyway, let's talk some football, shall we? Nate Davis, friend of the program. We've had him on the show. We are efforting to try and get him back on the show.
Yep.
Later on this week. We have had him on in the context of him doing game by game and record predictions for the NFL. He's one of the first national writers to do it on a yearly basis for USA Today. And earlier this week, he released his 2024 NFL record projections. You will not perhaps be surprised to learn that he believes that the Kansas City Chiefs will have the best record in the AFC with a 13-4 mark. That would only be matched league-wide by the 49ers and the Green Bay Packers. We'll get to our respective teams in a little bit more detail in just a bit here. But he does not believe that the Chiefs will win the Super Bowl, nor the 49ers, nor the Packers. No, Nate Davis, and again, he's a friend of the program. Nate Davis has projected that the Super Bowl 59 winner will be the New York Jets. And I'm here to tell you right now, if the New York Jets win a Super Bowl, I, Dan Lucero, will eat a sock on this radio program.
The problem with betting on that for the Jets, do they have defensive talent? Yes, some of the best in the league. They have the ability to be a top 3 defense in the NFL. Mm-hmm. Genuinely believe that.
Sure.
And I think Robert Saleh is a very good defensive coach. Put a pin in that right now. Offensively, they have playmakers. Breece Hall is awesome. Everybody around here knows that. Breece Hall is awesome. He has lived up to the hype. Garrett Wilson is a stud, a legit stud. Now, if Mike Williams stays healthy, that's a really good number 2. So they're going to have 3 games of a really good number 2 this coming season. And then, 14 that he's not able to play in. So I'm a little worried about their depth offensively. They've improved their offensive line. I don't know that it's good, but they've improved it for certain. And then you've got a quarterback who's going to be a unanimous first ballot Hall of Famer one day in Aaron Rodgers. All that being said, again, you don't have any depth and your number 2 receiver is hurt all the time. Again, the offensive line's not good. Rodgers is going to turn 41 in December and is coming off of a torn Achilles tendon. And I like Robert Saleh. And again, I think he's a good defensive coach. There's a lot of, he's never had a quarterback. He attached his wagon to Zach Wilson. That's who they drafted. Like, he's never had a good quarterback. So it's hard to know what he would do with an actually competitive team. While true, I think that's also a demerit against him, right? Like, we don't know that Robert Saleh can lead a winning team.
No.
We have no idea.
We don't, and it has devolved into chaos each of the last few years. It's not just that it's been mediocre football or mediocre results. It's been chaos.
And some
of that is New York, but you've got to be able to Tom Coughlin snuffed that nonsense out.
Mhm.
Like, there was chaos around the Giants because they were a New York team. There was the New York noise, if you will.
Mhm.
Tom Coughlin kept that in line.
Well, and
Robert Saleh has shown no ability to do that.
And I think, too, part of that is out of his control because Woody Johnson and Joe Douglas, their owner and GM respectively, gave way too much power to Aaron Rodgers.
Yes.
Way too much. Like, Rodgers straight up said recently that he was upset, or in not so many words, said he was upset with Robert Saleh for talking about having an unexcused absence for when he took his trip to Egypt instead of going to mandatory minicamp. Like, that is not something that you should put out in the open. Be like, yes, I am upset about my head coach saying this. He shouldn't have done it. I should get special privilege. Or last year, the whole, we need to get the BS out of the locker room. And then, like, was campaigning for Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Like, you should not have that kind of power. The quarterback has some power inherently. Patrick Mahomes has tons of power. But he is calculated with it and is low key with it and is behind closed doors and saying all the right things in public. That Jets team is seriously like 1 3-game losing streak away from folding. Like, they, and I don't just mean like a cheap chair. I mean, like, the franchise might just give up.
I think it's a really good roster. It's been a roster that's a quarterback away for the last 2 years. Is 41-year-old off an Achilles injury Aaron Rodgers that quarterback? That, I think, is what remains to be seen. The playoff teams from Nate Davis in the AFC: the Chiefs, number 1 seed; the Jets at 12-5, the 2 seed; the Colts and Bengals, the other division winners. The Colts and the Bengals both 11-6. His wild card teams, all with 10-7 records: the Bills, the Jags, and the Browns. That would mean the Ravens at 10-7 would miss the playoffs. The Texans and the Steelers and the Chargers at 9-8 would miss the playoffs. The Dolphins at 8-9 would miss the playoffs. I think what this exercise shows you, first and foremost, there are going to be some really good teams that miss the playoffs.
That is such a deep conference.
It is such a deep conference. There are going to be some really good. Honestly, they should get 2 extra playoff spots, and the NFC should have 2 fewer.
I think, just looking at this in grid form right now, I would say there are 10 legit, and there's always a surprise. You know, in fact, I would say 11. I would say there are 11 legitimate playoff contenders in the AFC. Not necessarily Super Bowl contenders, and I'm going to throw the Steelers in the bottom of that group. Just, that's the Tomlin bump for me. And their defense is good.
And if you wanted to tell me that the Chargers get a Harbaugh bump, I'd listen to it, because I do think he's an exceptional coach.
I think so too.
I think that roster is a year away from being real interesting, but I think if any coach can get that roster to 9-8, it's probably Harbaugh.
I agree with that. I don't think they will get there, but I do agree with that assessment, is that he is good enough at what he does. I mean, he's great at what he does. He could pull that out of them. The Colts, I'm standing down on the Colts a little bit. I have definitely been in the camp. There are some people in like the NFL media, the NFL podcast space, of which I was telling you yesterday, I listened to a lot of those, that are banging the drum for the Colts this year. And I have told you guys, I don't even know how many times, I love Shane Steichen. I think that dude is like he's next. That's Goldberg. Like, he's next. He's Brock Lesnar, the next big thing in terms of offensive coaching. Everybody is buying into them now. And we still don't know if Anthony Richardson's any good.
No, we don't.
He had 4+ games where he still was inaccurate, but you at least saw the positives. Like, God dang, he's a crazy athlete. And when he gets the ball where he wants it to go, you can make magic happen. He also missed almost the entire season, suffered multiple injuries in 5 weeks, and is essentially going to be a rookie all over again.
I have a quote, speaking of the NFL media, that just rolled up on my timeline. Dan Orlovsky was on Pat McAfee's show earlier. I really believe Anthony Richardson is the one guy who can flip the AFC upside down. Everyone continues to say he needs to change his playing style, but why? I want him to be Cam Newton, Lamar Jackson, and Josh Allen.
One of those things does not compare to the other two at all.
Yeah.
But I understand what he's saying. And I don't think Richardson needs to change the way he plays. I think the way he plays is actually really fun, and I think it is conducive to winning a lot. It's just a matter of being good at it. Like, if you're the size of Cam Newton, but you can't throw, then who cares? Like, that, so what? So that's my issue with the Colts. I want to buy in on the Jags. Like, I want to say they're going to bounce back, but I don't have like any actual belief in that. And Nate saying that he's got the Texans at 9-8 is pretty bold. That's one of the bolder picks on here next to the Jets winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah, no kidding. The teams with losing records, as mentioned, the Dolphins at 8-9, run through the rest of the AFC. The Titans and the Raiders both at 6-11. The Broncos at 4-13. The Patriots bringing up the rear at 3-14. Over in the NFC, the 49ers and the Packers both projected to go 13-4. The Niners picked to be the top seed. The Packers picked to win the conference by Nate Davis of USA Today.
Dog, if Aaron Rodgers beat the Packers in the Super Bowl, you would not see me for quite a while.
It would be a very long time.
If the Jets win the Super Bowl, I will leave all social media for the rest of my life.
We're all making promises here if the Jets win the Super Bowl.
I just can't buy it, man. I can't.
The Eagles and the Falcons, the other division champions, the Eagles at 10-7, the Falcons at 9-8. Wild card teams in the NFC, the Lions at 11-6, the Rams at 10-7, the Bears at 9-8. And I got to be honest, if Caleb Williams is good out of the gate, I don't hate that for the Bears because they've got a really soft schedule early on.
Mm-hmm.
They're the kind of team that can come out of the gate like 7-3 and have a lot of confidence for a young quarterback. Their defense did play better in the second half of last year. I might talk myself into the Bears, and I don't want to, but I might.
I see it. I can honestly, unbiasedly, objectively say I can definitely see that happening with the Bears. My concern with them, when they play the Colts in week 3, why would the Colts pass? Like, the Bears don't have beef.
Right.
Montez Sweat. Spencer, you know this. Montez Sweat, really good player. He's a good pass rusher. They got no one else in that front seven. And I love Austin Booker.
You said this yesterday.
Yeah, like they've got no beef. They're light in the pants up front. If I'm Indy, I'm running freaking like I formation option all game long. And I don't know that they can stop. The Rams with their 1,000 pounds of offensive line, I'm running duo all day and just daring them to beat inside zone. And they are not going to do it. That's my worry about the Bears, is I just don't think they have enough defensively right now, which, historically speaking, is kind of wild.
Those are the only teams that Davis projects will have a winning record in the NFC. The rest of the NFC, the Saints, the Bucks, the Cowboys, all 8-9. Boy, if the Cowboys go 8-9, that will be very funny. The Cardinals and the Fighting Spencer Dupuises of Washington, both 7-10.
I think that's fair.
Okay, I was going to ask. 7-10, that would be a step in the right direction with the first-year quarterback.
Yeah, I mean,
first-year head coach.
I mean, I don't think it's going to be a lightning in a pan kind of lightning in a bottle kind of thing this year. I think it's going to be an ease, gradually getting better.
The old flash in a bottle, lightning in a pan.
The Vikings and the Seahawks, both 5-12. I would be really surprised the Seahawks are that bad.
I would be too. I
guess somebody's got to lose these games. Like, there are a bunch of teams in the NFC you could talk yourself into that have like 9-win ceiling, and I think the Seahawks are certainly one of those.
Mm-hmm.
I would be surprised if they're worse than the Cardinals. Let me say that. I do not think that's a worse roster than Arizona.
I am buying the Seahawks offense now. You know who their offensive coordinator is? Ryan Grubb, who was at Washington, who left to go to Alabama when Kalen DeBoer took the Bama job.
Right.
Then Mike McDonald said, hey, do you want to actually just not leave Seattle and stay with the Seahawks? He's like, yes, actually, that's exactly what I want to do. I'm buying their offense now. I am buying stock in the defense, but I am holding that. I'm putting that in the portfolio. That's a long-term stock for me. I actually think the Seahawks defense might be kind of bad this year. Not because I don't believe in Mike McDonald. In fact, I really believe in Mike McDonald. Go back now 2 seasons ago, his first year calling the Ravens defense. Remember when the Dolphins made them look like a peewee team?
Yeah.
Like, that scheme is just so complex.
It is.
It takes a while.
And they got a bunch of young guys, and I'm not completely sold on their pass rush. I don't think it's a playoff team. I don't think it's a 5-win team.
If you told me they're like 7-10 with 7 one-score games, I would say that actually makes a lot of sense to me. And I think
it would be like Pete Carroll never left.
For real though, like that. If that happened, I would probably pick the Seahawks to win that division the year after. Like I think they're on the right track. I think it's just going to take a year with that defense.
Yeah.
Panthers and the Giants 4-13 to round out. Give me real quick, guys, rapid fire here. One team in the AFC that you think is underrated by Nate Davis.
The Texans.
Yeah, the Texans are the easy one here. I am also going to give you No, I'm going to go with the Texans as well. I think that I want to say the Dolphins, but I'm just uneasy about them, so I'll say the Texans too.
Yeah, I think the Texans are being underrated there. How about overrated in the AFC? I mean, I'll start. It's the Jets. They're not winning the Super Bowl. If they do, I'll eat a sock. I'll say it again for the record. There it is. I will eat a sock if the Jets win the Super Bowl.
Hell yeah. I'm going to go with the Browns. The Browns have one of the best rosters in the NFL. Why should I trust Deshaun Watson?
Yeah. They talk about a team that's a quarterback away, and I don't think Watson is that guy. All right, quick, NFC. Team that is overrated in the NFC, Spencer.
Rams.
I'm going to go with the Bears. I think they're a year away.
I think the Rams are overrated too. Like I think that they are. I don't think it's a 10-win roster. I think Stafford's getting a little older. Underrated by the NFC. Brendan.
Carolina. I don't think they win more than 6, but I think they are going to be significantly improved.
I'll go Seahawks. I think, like you said, I think they're better than the Cardinals.
I think that the Eagles will win more than 10 games. I think they'll win that division, and I think they'll win more than 10 games. I think Hurts bounces back this year. We're going to take a break here on 580 Sports Talk. When we come back, 2 new What Is Wrong With You stories, and Michael Swain still come this hour on 580 WIBW. Time for another round of What Is Wrong With You on 580 Sports Talk from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. Our current weekly champion, the Dine and Dash dummy from Florida, who tried to run out on a meal at the Longhorn Steakhouse without paying, but left her purse. Doesn't need much more explanation than that. 2 new stories today. Trent, you go first.
Yeah, a woman that was about to be married got arrested because they were arguing over a prenup and got charged with aggravated battery. So it happened in Florida, and the bride got arrested for domestic battery. According to court records, investigators allege that Molly Rose Hogan, 26, and the male victim were engaged in a prenuptials quarrel late Sunday night in their St. Petersburg, Florida residence, not reference. The victim told cops that Hogan grabbed him around the head and struck him on the chest, torso, back, and legs, causing multiple physical injuries. The attack, the man said, was prompted by a heated argument over signing a prenuptial agreement prior to marriage. The victims attempted to escape from the defendant multiple times and was ultimately separated from Hogan by witnesses who corroborated his account of the incident. Police allege that one witness, the victim's brother, was bitten on the arms by Hogan, and he has sought to stop her from battering his sibling. Alcohol appears to have played a role in the 11:30 p.m. confrontation.
You don't say.
A wedding registry remains online, welcoming friends and family to join our epic journey. This registry seeks cash gifts to help pay for table centerpieces, a wedding cake, flowers, and an open bar.
Holla, we want prenup.
We want prenup.
No. No. Apparently. All right. My story today, we're going to St. Louis. A dispute over a missing chicken strip resulted in a St. Louis woman striking a Jack in the Box employee with her car. 41-year-old Tulane Carter went to the eatery and complained to the manager about a previous order she had made 3 days before. She told the manager her order had been missing a single chicken strip. In response to the complaint, the store manager gave her a chicken strip. Police said despite this, Carter became irritated with the lack of ranch provided at the restaurant and spit in the manager's face. As Carter left the Jack in the Box and went to her vehicle, the store manager went out a different exit to capture the license plate number. Carter noticed, ran up on the manager, physically bumped their shoulder, and said to the manager, "You're trying to get charges put on me?" Police said Carter went back to her vehicle, put her car in reverse, and backed into the manager. The vehicle hit the manager's left foot and ankle and knocked her to the ground. The manager's ankle was visibly swollen and bruised. As a result, Carter left the scene and was arrested the following day, being charged with second-degree assault and fourth-degree assault. I'm assuming the fourth-degree assault was the spit, and the second-degree assault was running her over with her car.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so I'm going to pick this story today, A, because I think it's more intense. B, I've also had a bad experience at a Jack in the Box near St. Louis, Missouri. So I really feel for this woman, to be frank with you. But you can't hit a person with your car.
Look, you come back 3 days after the fact, said, "Hey, you shorted me a chicken strip," and you got the chicken strip. You've got nothing to complain about.
Exactly.
Well, where's my ranch? You're lucky you got the damn chicken strip. Take your W and get out.
I'm going to be honest with you. The statute of limitations for a missing food item, 1 hour. You got 60 minutes. After that, statute of limitations is up.
Yeah, no kidding. And you better provide a receipt and photo proof.
Yes, agreed.
You left out a chicken strip. Absolute nonsense. Does that beat the Dine and Dash dummy?
You know, I'm going to say yes. She hit this person with her car.
Yes. Jack in the Box assault. We'll come up with a better name for it later. That's going to be our new What Is Wrong With You champion. Michael Swain joins us next on 580 Sports Talk.
Weekly here on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzinski, Dan Lucero, Spencer Dupuy, Trenton Kraxner in studio with you, and joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline, as he does every Tuesday at this time, Michael Swain of Fog.net, covers the Kansas Jayhawks for Fog.net and 24/7 Sports. You can find him on Twitter as well, at mswain247. Michael, you were enjoying the outdoors last week at this time. How was Oregon?
Oh, it was so much fun. So much fun. You know, I don't get a lot of vacations with the way I think college athletics calendar comes, and this is probably one of the deadest times of year. So I took full advantage of heading up to Bend, Oregon with my fiance for a couple of days. Got to go around, hike, just spend some time in a smaller-ish town, and it was really great to refresh. So now definitely excited for fall camp. I think we're 7 days away. Next week's gonna fly by, and all of a sudden it's football.
Yeah, it is right around the corner. And since we didn't get to chat with you, Michael, last week, I just wanted to, if you can recall any of the details still from Media Day out in Vegas, what were some of the highlights for you covering the Jayhawks out there in Vegas a couple weeks back at Media Day?
Yeah, totally. I think getting to talk to Jalen Daniels was a really good thing, I think, getting to hear from him a little bit more in depth. Obviously, you know, he hadn't really talked since his injury against Texas. And so I think getting to hear from him on how challenging I think last year was on the mental side of things. Obviously, there was a lot of talk about just what his long-term outlook looked like at Kansas and things like that. And getting to hear him kind of talk more about maybe the mental toll that takes when, you know, his teammates are asking him, hey man, like, are you locked in? Are you going to stay? You know, and what that can do to interpersonal relationships on a team. I thought that was really interesting. On the positive note, you know, Jalen said if there was a game, he'd be able to go. And it sounds like when fall camp begins, you know, Jalen will be able to practice fully and be full go. And that's obviously such a huge deal for this KU team. I think elsewhere, look, it's a team that I think knows what it can achieve this year in terms of, you know, maybe being a 9-10 win team, potentially more, with the chance to play for maybe a conference title and a space in the college football playoff that comes with it. And I thought it was really interesting to hear the guys talk about the fact that they have this broad goal, but they understand that in order to reach that broad goal, you can't really think about it. It can be in the back of your mind, but when you're going to the lift every day, you can't think, oh, you know, well, I want to fast forward to this moment. It's, hey, we got to make the most of this lift here, this little part of, you know, team tech or whatever part of the off season they're in. And I think that mindset is really interesting because I don't know if every single college football team that has that type of big goal has the ability to attack every day. And it is such a cliche, but it is really what makes great teams great. You know, you hear Bill Self talk about it all the time with basketball. You've heard Nick Saban talk about it with football. You have to have the right mindset every day and go in and treat it like it's a brand new day. And so I think this team is talking like they have that mindset. Obviously, you can't really know until you get into the season and they show the ability to have it over the course of 12 weeks.
Chatting with Michael Swain of Fog.net and 24/7 Sports, joining us for Jayhawk Weekly here on 580 Sports Talk. Make sure you're following Michael online on Twitter as well, at mswain247. Some of the comments that JD made, Michael, at Media Day got, I think, some people a little maybe confused about what the intent was of what he was saying, or some of the talk about Daniels and the injury. And, you know, when Lance Leipold was asked, is he healthy? Is he going to be able to go week one? And, well, yeah, if he wasn't going to be able to go week one, I wouldn't have brought him here. And, you know, just kind of not being super committal, I think, about his long-term health. Is that just something KU is going to have to deal with, that, hey, look, it's a back. Like, no matter what kind of therapy you go through, treatment you get, no one ever had a bad back. It is just something you deal with or is constantly, at least in the back of your mind. Do you think that's going to be the reality for KU this year, is that they just are always going to have to be thinking about making sure he can get week to week?
Well, I think so. So I think there's a few different parts to this. On the one hand, Jalen Daniels has not played a full college football season, right? That's a fact. Mm-hmm. And so I think as a result of that, there are going to be questions about his health, because it's something that has come up in each of the last 3 years when Jalen has been in competition to play. So on the one hand, these questions are going to continue, and they'll continue every single week until Jalen Daniels plays 12 games or more. So there's that. And then there's also the privacy part of this. And I thought Jalen spoke pretty well about it. He is not upset about the way Lance Leipold handled talking about his injury last year. We talked on the show, I'm sure at the time, I can't remember, but I'm sure we talked about it, the fact that, hey, the updates weren't super intensive, right? This was not an injury report, like they do in the NFL or in the Big Ten or SEC where, hey, here is his official status for this game. It's a little more wishy-washy than that. And Jalen said he actually liked the way that Leipold decided to handle it. And for a fact that if Jalen wanted exactly what was happening out there, I think there's a pretty good reason to believe that it would have been out there. And and he wanted it kept private because from his perspective, he'd not want the story to be, oh, Jalen Daniels is week to week, every single week, and, oh, this is what's going on while the team is having, one of his best seasons in well over a decade. So it is one of these situations where the question about Jalen's health will continue to be asked through the fall. Hey, how is he progressing during camp? Is he doing everything you think he'd be able to do? And look, Leipold's probably not going to give super intensive answers, and he's totally within his right to have that approach. But I think for a fan, for someone like myself who's asked the questions, like there's always going to be that maybe the wondering in the back of your head, hey, can he make it? But I think all of it is fair. I think the way KU handles it is entirely fair. They're entitled to do it. The questions and the wondering from fans is equally fair. And I think everyone, though, has probably the same hope, fans, coaches, players alike, that, hey, Jalen can play 13, 14 plus games if everything goes well for KU.
It was one of the biggest stories of the offseason up to this point. It was brought up a lot to Leipold at Media Day in Las Vegas, the Jeff Grimes hire offensively. And I know, Michael, we've talked about Jeff Grimes and him stepping into the OC role in KU a bunch ever since that hire was made back in the spring. What do you think it says about Grimes and about the excitement Leipold has in him, the staff has in him, and just the fact that they brought him in with no prior connection to the guy? You look at the offensive line, Daryl Egpalsa, he coached for Lance Leipold. He was his first offensive line coach at Buffalo. They've got a long-term connection. Obviously, the rest of the staff, for the most part, has been with Leipold for years and years, some going all the way back to the D3 days at Whitewater. What does that say about the belief they have in Jeff Grimes to keep this thing rolling offensively?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is alignment in what KU has done on offense and what they feel Jeff Grimes wants to do on offense as well. Look, someone had to take the fall at Baylor, and it wasn't going to be Dave Aranda. And the offense wasn't where people thought it would be, and Dave Aranda is a defensive guy. So what are you going to do? You're going to throw the OC under the bus, and that's what happened. And now all of a sudden, hey, you look, Baylor's spending some money on players, and all of a sudden they're recruiting well. You give guys talent, and they can coach up talent. And so I think for Grimes, I think he got the short end of the stick at Baylor. I think at KU, there's the opportunity to kind of refine some of that more positive buzz that was around him when he took the Baylor job. And you got to remember, when Baylor had really good offensive weapons, they went to the Big 12 title game, and they went to the Sugar Bowl. And so this is an offensive coordinator who, in terms of pelts on the wall, has it. Right? He has led great offenses. He has made it to, close to the pinnacle of college football in being that, hey, if, the playoff was around back when he was at Baylor in 2021, they would have made the playoff. So in terms of the resume, it's a really impressive resume. And for Grimes, I'm really interested to see what sort of tweaks he makes, because the entire talk around the offense this offseason has been, it's going to be the Kansas offense. It's not going to be Jeff Grimes' offense. It's not going to be Andy Kotelnicki's offense. It's going to be the Kansas offense, right? What Kansas has done over the last couple of years, in terms of spreading the ball around on offense, having some of those outside zone concepts, having maybe a little bit of option mixed in as well with Jalen Daniels. And so for me, I'm really interested to see what sort of tweaks Grimes makes. Because at the end of the day, he's a different human being, a different play caller than Andy Kotelnicki. And so how does he handle certain situations? Is there going to be more screens like it sounds like there will be? That's not something KU did a lot under Andy Kotelnicki. The screen game was very few and far between. So how does he incorporate that? What about jet sweeps, jet motions, things like that? So I think for this offense, it's got to – someone in Grimes who has the resume of someone who should have success, and KU has the players with the resumes of success. So you put this all together, and theoretically on paper, it should all work out. Now, will it? I mean, nobody can tell me that they know for a fact, because it's hard to tell, and offense can be tricky sometimes. And so I'm really interested to see the tweaks that KU makes, but I think at the end of the day, this offense has the ability to go on and be one of the best ones in college football.
We've got a few more questions for Michael Swain, who covers KU, all things KU, for Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Joins us every Tuesday at this time for Jayhawk Weekly on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. Cannot recommend enough that you go be a VIP over at 24/7. It's the best way to get all the inside scoops on things going on with all things KU. And right now, Michael, on the VIP side of the site, you're putting together your position primers for every position on the football roster. What is one spot, one position group you think going into this year you have the most excitement about? Like running back, everyone talks about the running backs because you've got two of the best in the entire Big 12, maybe the best in the Big 12. Leading that group is the hometown kid in Devin Neal. We know about the quarterback room a lot. What's another position group that you think fans should be excited about going into this year?
Well, I'll give you one that there should be a lot of excitement, maybe more so in the long term, and that's defensive end. It's something that I think is such a really fascinating spot for KU because, in my opinion, defense is about talent, offense is about coaching and maximizing the talent that you have, right? You see great offenses in the NFL that are really well coached, and you see it in college, right? Offenses that have good players that are really well coached end up being the best offenses, right? Because you're coaching the talents you have to reach a different level. Sometimes the defense, it's kind of just about the dudes you have. You look at the Georgia defense, and what do they have? They have first-round picks walking around at every single position. That's pretty helpful. And what KU has at defensive end now is some guys that are coming in with blue-chip pedigree. And that doesn't mean every blue-chip recruit pans out to be an incredible player, an NFL draft pick, right? But it just shows that the pure talent is there for a player to maximize. And for KU, you look at this defensive end position heading into this year. On the strong side, KU's got veteran players like Jeremy Robinson and Dylan Woodkey from Youngstown State, a transfer who KU got last winter. Those two guys are in their final years of college. They've been around the block. They've seen it all. But then you go to the weak side, and it's guys that have the exact opposite. No experience. They've not been around the block, and they've definitely not seen everything. And for me, it's the unknown of that weak side defensive end spot when you look at having guys like Bai Jobe, Deshaun Warner, Dekai Brinkley, and Dean Miller, guys that have not played a lot of college football. But there's so much talent there, right? Jobe from Michigan State got brought in, former top 100 prospect, a guy that's got a basketball background. He's got the length and size that I think anybody would want at defensive end. There's Deshaun Warner, who was one of the top defensive ends in the most recent high school class, right? The highest rated high school prospect to sign with Kansas in 24/7 sports history. Then there's Dak Brinkley, who I think if he was in a different class, he would have been considered the gem of the class, the top of the bill. And he, just because the fact that Deshaun Warner is also in the class, probably isn't going to get as many plaudits just in terms of looking at things on paper. And so you put those three guys together and there's immense talent. And it's going to come down to the coaching staff to help those guys develop and be in positions to where when they get a chance, they can at least hold their own. And maybe every once in a while during a game, you'll see a flash. And so that position group, for me, I look at it and it's going to be a rotation, right? You're not going to see a guy go out there and be like Austin Booker and play 75% of the snaps. It's going to be a rotation. There might be games where Bai Jobe plays a lot more than anybody else. There could be games where Dean Miller plays more than other guys. And it's going to come down to every single week who had a good week of practice, who is available, and who is playing well. And those are the guys who are going to play. I think that's just exciting because the talent is there and you got to get to see the talent grow and develop. And I think that's what makes college football so awesome and so fun sometimes, is getting to watch someone like Kobe Bryant get thrown into the deep end as a freshman, look out of his depth, right? You remember what he looked like back in 2021, but then over that season and then over the seasons to come, you see him develop into what he is now. And I think that for me is a really exciting part about this defensive end room, is the fact that we're starting a cycle where we can watch these players grow and develop and potentially reach that potential that had them as a blue chip recruit. So for me, I mean, it's a long answer, but I think just defensive end for me is such a fascinating position for KU this season.
Michael, let's get to a couple basketball quick hitters here before we get you on your way. What's the level of optimism coming out of McCarthy Hall and Allen Fieldhouse regarding the newcomers? So many new faces who are going to play on this team this year. Have you heard anything, remarkably optimistic from what you've heard from workouts?
Yeah, I think things are generally pretty optimistic. It's something I wrote about for VIP subscribers late last week. It seems like for several guys, they've met expectations. I think one guy that has really stood out to people around the program, is Rakeese Passmore, a true freshman. It's not a big freshman class for KU, right? It's Floyd Badunga and Passmore, and he is someone that has come in and with his athleticism really stood out. Like, he is a guy that can walk into any gym and be an A-plus athlete. And we heard Bill Self talk a lot about creativity, but also just athleticism. Do you have the ability to go make plays that some other players can't make? And for Passmore, he's got that ability, and he shot the ball pretty well, it sounds like, during the summer. And for him, like, I don't know, when he, showed up on campus in May and June, I maybe wasn't thinking, hey, this is going to be a guy that's going to be a part of the Big 12 rotation, maybe a little bit in the back end. But from what it sounds like, he's going to be pushing guys. And it's not guaranteed that he's going to play a lot, but I think it's pretty good that he is going to be in a position. It's pretty known that he's going to be in a position to push those guys, get opportunities, and get minutes. And if he makes the most of those during the challenging non-conference schedule, then, hey, look, I mean, as a freshman, there's a good chance he could have a decent role on the team. So he is someone that I've heard some pretty positive things about, and it definitely sounds like he's got a really bright future ahead of him.
All right, Michael, last thing I've got for you. While you've been traveling this last week or so, have you gotten to catch any of the TBT?
Oh, I've caught a little bit of it. It's always so interesting to watch some of these guys from KU play, like Billy Preston. I know this has been said by other people, but getting to watch him, you're just thinking, man, what if? And getting to watch Frank Mason do it again is such a treat. It's crazy to think, right? Like 8 years ago was Frank's senior season. It's just so weird to think back. And like, for me, I'm like, oh,
Michael, you're making me feel old. That was also my senior year. You're making me feel old.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you think back and you're like, oh, that wasn't too long. And you're like, wait a second. Wow. And it's just cool to get to see him go out there and still showcase some of that talent that made him the top player in college basketball, the best out there, his senior year. So it's been fun. I'm really fascinated to see how things go for them on Wednesday. Obviously, it's great to see the team have success after, 2-3 years ago, it didn't really go well. Last year was better, and it seems like this year another step forward.
All I know is that if Dedrick Lawson could have shot 3-pointers in 2019, that year probably goes a whole lot differently than it actually went. Michael Swain covers the Kansas Jayhawks for Fog.net and 24/7 Sports. Find him on Twitter as well, at mswain247. He joins us every Tuesday at this time for Jayhawk Weekly. We appreciate the time, Michael, as always. We'll chat with you soon.
Awesome. Sounds great, guys. Talk to you next week.
Michael Swain, Fog.net. Always love getting his insight. Go subscribe to 24/7 Sports if you want the best VIP content about not just KU, not just K-State with our friend Tim Fitzgerald, who we'll talk to tomorrow, but like every school.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you what, when it comes to like a hot recruiting battle, being able to go to the other sites that 24/7 runs and to see what their insiders are saying and to get the temperature on those, really valuable, and either will drive you crazy or make you feel pretty good. Also, I will add, pretty good showing for Mass Street last night. On to the third round of the TBT for the second straight year.
Right, carrying the banner for the Kansas contingent, too, with both purple and black and the Aftershocks getting eliminated.
Man, they yacked that one away yesterday. The Aftershocks did.
That was a tough one. Coming up in the 5 o'clock hour, we got headlines. We'll talk Royals. We'll play Name That Guy here in the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. One more hour of 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Final hour of the day on this Tuesday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Hope everybody's had a great Tuesday. Hope we've helped make it better if you've been hanging out with us. If you're just joining us, thanks for tuning in. We hope it's a great final hour of 580 Sports Talk, and we're glad you're with us on 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and on the YouTube stream. 580 Sports Talk is the YouTube channel. You can also catch us on Facebook, WIBW News. I'm Dan Lucero. Spencer Dupuis and Brendan Dworzinski are in the studio with me. That would be clockwise from my left. And Trenton Craxner is across the glass. Our summer intern is our producer engineer here today. We got you till 6 o'clock. Then we'll have a little overtime on the show today ahead of Royals baseball. We'll hand it off to the Royals Baseball Network at 6:30 for pregame coverage. A 7:10 first pitch tonight. So the Royals try to earn a series win over the Arizona Diamondbacks. They'll hope to do it behind the young right-hander Alec Marsh. Jordan Montgomery starts for the Diamondbacks. He was activated from the injured list today. Did you guys see who the Diamondbacks sent down to make room on the 26-man roster for Montgomery?
Castellanos?
Yep. He got out of Kansas City at the cover of nights.
Jeez.
He will not face consequences for his dastardly actions throwing at Bobby Witt Jr. last night.
Well,
he is on his way back to Tucson. I think it's
even
Tucson.
Pitched?
Reno. No, it's not Tucson anymore. It's Reno.
Would he have even pitched the rest of the series? Because he pitched, what, 2 innings, 3 innings last night?
Doesn't matter. Him being in the ballpark would have been enough
That's
to
true.
receive the invective
the
Kauffman Stadium faithful
Carl Sheffer's of MLB.
every time he stood up to stretch.
I mean, that bullpen, so close to the fans. You could just yell down there and you could yell some bad
Christopher
stuff.
in the YouTube comment says, "Oh no, a lefty starting. Hampson and Blanco time. Buddy, get ready to learn leadoff batter Garrett Hampson."
Yeah,
because that's happening tonight.
By the way, the Diamondbacks have several affiliates with really great names. Reno Aces.
Yes.
Gambling. Good.
Used to be the Tucson Sidewinders. That was many years ago.
Do you know their double A team? Can you name the minor league affiliate? Who is their double A team?
They're not the Sod Poodles, are they?
They are the
they are
Amarillo
the Sod.
Sod
I thought it was
Poodles.
San Diego for some reason. No.
Amarillo by morning, Sod Poodle by afternoon. A high A in the Northwest League.
The Northwest League?
They have an alliterative name.
The Eugene Emeralds?
No.
Oh.
No, that's a good guess. No, they're the Hillsboro Hops.
Ah, yes.
And then can you name their low A team? They are in California.
They're not the Nuts.
No, they are not the Modesto Nuts. They're the Visalia Rawhide.
Rawhide.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, Humberto Castellanos sent down after he threw at Bobby Witt Jr. last night. And, yeah, he threw at Bobby Witt Jr. last night. He may not have meant to hit him, but he definitely hit him on purpose.
My whole Twitter timeline in response to the video of it happening, mostly non-Royals or Diamondbacks people, all responded with, "That pitcher thinks he's slick, acting like it was an accident." No one believes that.
Plausible deniability is the whole thing. You don't want that 10-game suspension. You don't want that fine. You don't want that letter in your locker from MLB. So we'll see if both sides put that behind them tonight. I suspect it will be done and dusted, but I guess you never know. If Bobby Witt Jr. homers in the first inning, maybe it gets nasty again. And Bobby Witt Jr. might homer in the first inning. He might homer in every inning. I wouldn't put anything past him. He could deadlift Kauffman Stadium tonight, and I'd be like, yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
He's doing some real superhero stuff of late for the Royals, who are 4-0 since the All-Star break. We'll talk a little bit more about the game, give you the full lineup and all of that later on this hour. We'll also play a round of Name That Guy. Our quiz master / host, Trenton Craxner, has come up with 4 more guys for us to try and name in what has become a weekly competition here on the program. But we're going to start with our 5A Sports Talk headlines, and I'll keep it real with everybody. It's a bit of a slow news day, so we don't have maybe as many headlines as we typically might.
Although we did just get some breaking Royals news 6 minutes ago.
We did, and we'll start there with the breaking Royals news. This was expected, and it is now official as announced by the team. The Royals have agreed to terms with their first-round draft choice, Florida two-way star Jack Caglione, and he will be formally introduced by the team tomorrow night at Kauffman Stadium. So I'd imagine they'll do a press release with him, J.J. Piccolo. Jack Caglione has signed. The terms have not as yet been disclosed. So I'm not seeing the financials on that. I'm gonna Google real fast the slot values for each pick. The 6th overall pick had a slot value of $7,213,800. So that's sort of the slot value of each pick is where the negotiations kind of start.
Mm-hmm.
And I would think that Caglione probably comes in right around slot. I wouldn't expect him to be much higher or certainly any lower than that $7.2 million.
Do you know when I've got 2 questions for you. Do you know when the various prospect ranking places, MLB Pipeline, Baseball America, etc., when they will adjust to post-draft?
I think Baseball America did this morning.
Did they? Okay, well, that would answer my question.
I did see the Baseball America.
Yeah, last updated today over
Here you go, 9 hours ago. There you go.
Because the number 1 prospect in baseball, according to Baseball America, is
your boy.
My boy, James Wood.
So, trade deadline near, draft complete, full July update that now includes 2024 draftees. I am not subscribed to Baseball America, so I am not able to see their full list.
My computer is super janky, and I briefly got behind the paywall without even trying.
Yeah,
but then it locked me out.
It'll tease you on the paywall, but then it will close it up real fast.
All right.
Yeah.
I don't endorse this, but I have cracked the code. And by crack the code, I mean the webpage just won't load the paywall, so I got behind it.
Sick.
Let me tell you if he is on here, if Jack Caglione is on here. Yes. Can you guess where Baseball America ranks Jack Caglione among the top 100 prospects? I will tell you right off the rip, this should not surprise a single soul. He is indeed the Royals' number 1 prospect.
I am going to take a wild guess that he ranks. I think he's in the top 50. I'll say I'll split the difference. I'll say 40.
I'll say 36.
Both a little optimistic, but that's fine. We like optimism here. 45.
All right.
That's pretty good.
Okay.
Unless I missed him,
I just did the old load the page and stop it loading real fast, and now I'm looking at the entire list.
Okay, yeah. Unless I missed him, Dan, I do not see Blake Mitchell on here.
I do not either. Yeah, he's just one Royal in the top 50.
That's pretty good, though. Top 50 player. I'll take that.
Yeah, James Wood, number 1, Jackson Holiday, number 2, Junior Caminero, number 3. Wow, the Nationals have 2 of the top 4. Dylan Cruz, number 4.
Yep.
Jackson Jobe of the Tigers, number 5. So yeah, again, I have not seen the financials. I would expect I would see those fairly soon.
I would think so. Maybe by the end of the day. Honestly.
Yeah, maybe by the end of this segment, we'll try and pass them along if we see them. But yes, Jack Caglione and the Royals have agreed to terms, and we'll hear from Jack Caglione at the K tomorrow night. And if we get a hold of that audio, we'll play it. Why not? All right, that's my first headline.
I would imagine if any insider is going to have it, it is going to be Jeff Passan who has that, because
him or one of the more college-oriented guys. I've seen Jim Callis of Baseball America breaks a lot of that. So we'll be on the lookout.
All right, first headline for me today. Let's go local here. We heard from Craig Schurig earlier on today, the head coach of the Washburn Ichabods. Today was MIAA Football Media Day in Kansas City at the Kauffman Foundation Convention Center. Lovely building, by the way. I had never been before. I'm not nearly important or wealthy enough to have ever been at something at the Kauffman Foundation Conference Center before, but I can tell you that while there this morning, they released, right as the event started at 9:30, the preseason polls from both the coaches and the media for the MIAA. That's the good news. The bad news, unfortunately, is that Washburn comes in 9th in both of those polls, just narrowly ahead of last place Nebraska Kearney. So here's how it shakes out. First, the coaches poll. Central Missouri, they got 8 first-place votes. They are number 1 in the coaches poll. Pitt State, 2 first-place votes. They finished 2nd. Followed by Northwest Missouri State, Emporia State, and Hayes. That rounds out the top 5. Missouri Western is 6th. Central Oklahoma, 7th. Missouri Southern, 8th. Washburn comes in 9th, 1 single point ahead of Nebraska Kearney in 10th. In the preseason media poll, Central Missouri, again, 21st place votes. They are number 1 in the conference to start things off. Pitt State, 6 first place votes. Northwest, 3rd. Missouri Western, 4th. Fort Hays State, 5th. Same top 5, or for most of the top 5 anyway. Emporia State, though, slides to 6th. Central Oak, 7. Missouri Southern, 8. Washburn, 9. and Nebraska Kearney 10. Trenton Craxner, I will bring you in here for this. You asked me this question off the air a little bit earlier. I will ask you, as the sideline reporter for Washburn football on Country 106.9, knowing the schedule, knowing what the expectations are for this team, what would be your guess for where this Washburn squad finishes the year in terms of standings in the now 10-team MIAA?
Sixth or seventh.
I think that's fair.
I think they'll be ahead of Kearney, UCO, and Missouri Southern.
I think Missouri Southern's gettable. I'm not gonna lie, man.
Emporia State is very gettable week one because they have Gunnar Gundy playing quarterback for him.
Yeah, sidebar headline here. Gunnar Gundy, Mike Gundy's kid. It was reported by multiple outlets. I think first by Landon Reinhardt of KSNT last night. Gunnar Gundy has transferred to Emporia State. He was transferring to the University of Ohio to play for the Bobcats and the MAC. I don't know what happened that led to him not ending up there. He is now committed to Emporia State, where he will be in the quarterback battle there to replace Brandon Gleason. So Washburn picked 9th in the conference. They will kick things off in just over a month on Thursday, August 29th. That is, if my math is correct, 5 weeks and 2 days from today. Yours truly, Trenton, will be part of the crew that is there in Emporia for the season opening Turnpike Tussle on August 29th.
Spencer, give me a headline.
Yeah, the first headline for me, the NFL Players Association and the NFL have had discussions at, quote, a very high level over potentially adding an 18th regular season game to the schedule. The NFLPA Executive Director Lloyd Howell told the Washington Post. Howell told the Post that the talks between the NFLPA and the league have not reached the stage of formal negotiations, but acknowledged that the plans to discuss the issue with players in the near future. Earlier this year, NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell said that he favored an 18-game schedule, adding that he envisioned a lengthened schedule that would culminate in a President's Day weekend built around the Super Bowl on a Sunday night. So we're getting closer to the inevitable.
Yeah, once
18-game schedule.
Once they caved on 17, it was always going to be 18. Like the part of my brain that likes even numbers will be happy that you can go 500 again.
Yeah.
And if they drop a preseason game, go down to 2 preseason games and 18 regular season games, that's fine. I do think they need to add a second bye if they're going to do this.
Correct.
I think they absolutely, and the players union should fight tooth and nail for that second bye. And honestly, I don't know why the NFL wouldn't want it, because the whole thing about the NFL, the whole thing that the NFL wants is to be in front of you always, to always be top of mind, to be the number one sports thing 365 days of the year. They turn their schedule release into an event, into a televised event. They have turned the draft into a live event. It's a teleconference.
One of the biggest events of the year.
Yes. So I would think they would jump at the opportunity to, we can extend the regular season by 1 week, and it's just an extra bye, essentially, for everybody. Yeah. And our regular season is 20 weeks instead of 19. Sure, sign us up.
You know who's got to be super mad about this? College football. Because college football, for years, maybe forever, I don't know, I haven't been alive for the entire history of football, they've had the first week of September.
Yeah.
That and week 0. They have always had that. And then they can play games on Thursday and Friday and Saturday and Sunday, and then a Monday night game on ABC or ESPN as well. They have dominated that first weekend. Now, if your goal is to add an 18th game and finish the season on President's Day weekend, well, what happens is you have to add another bye. And I think the NFL even knows that. Like, yeah, we got to add an extra bye week for everybody. That means you're extending it 1 week farther out at the end and also extending it 1 more week out at the beginning. Because right now the Super Bowl is the weekend before President's Day. This, for 2025, for example, Super Bowl Sunday, February 9th, President's Day Monday is on February 17th. So you need to move it 1 week in each direction. College football then no longer gets that free week of exposure in September. Unless college football wants to say, you know what? Fine. We're going to play the last weekend of August. And then 100 players will die of heat stroke in the deep south because it'll be 400 degrees.
No, this is, again, the NFL's marketing plan. It's not just we want to be the first thing you think of. We're not letting anyone else have anything. Black Friday used to be a college football day. It's the NFL's day now. Christmas used to be the NBA's day. It's the NFL's day now.
Mm-hmm.
The NFL is everywhere and everything, and it will be the only thing if they can help it.
Yeah.
So they do not care. Like, maybe they've played nice. Like, New Year's Day used to be college football's day. NFL doesn't care now. If we can put a game on New Year's Day, we're going to do it. Just don't care. They no longer are playing nice with other sports. No longer willing to cede the spotlight or cede being in front of you for even a single solitary second.
I will say it is very funny, the idea of they're having high-level conversations about this. The day they announced that they were going to go to 17 games, when that was negotiated out and became official, I remember the next time we talked to Matt Verderame, it might have been the same day. It might have been a Monday. I remember the first thing we asked him was, hey, what's your reaction to having a 17-game schedule? And Matt saying the records are going to look weird, and eventually we will get to 18 games.
Yeah,
like everyone has known that the whole time.
I remember Schefter coming on ESPN when that happened, and him saying the exact the ultimate goal is to get to 18 games.
Yeah,
when and how long it'll take to get there, he couldn't tell you at the time.
I will say two things real quick before we get to the next headline. One, it just happened a lot quicker than I thought it would. I thought it was going to take another couple years to get to this mark, 6, 7, I don't know, but it happened really quickly. And I mean, it'll only be probably 2 or 3 seasons from now that we get to 18 games. Additionally, the more I think about it, the more I love Joe Burrow's idea about how to do the bye weeks that he shared. He shared it with the Pardon My Take podcast a few weeks ago. I actually just listened to the whole interview. He's an engaging guy. But he said the way he would do it would have the first half of the season, you do, rotating bye weeks like they do now. But then like week 13,
it's
or
a league-wide bye.
Everybody gets a bye and you do the Pro Bowl or the Pro Bowl events or whatever. And some guys are still going to say no. Some guys would probably be more inclined to do it because it's like not vacation time yet. Some guys, like if you're
maybe we get Pat Mahomes in the Pro Bowl games.
That's true. Guys who are going to play in the Super Bowl could go to it. Or, if you're a Panther and you got voted to the Pro Bowl, you're Brian Burns over the last couple of years, you ain't going to the Pro Bowl, man. You're going on vacation. Like, screw this. I'm done with football for now. Now, that might actually get people to go. So I actually love that plan.
Yeah, I think it's an intriguing plan to take a week off, do like an all-star weekend.
Yes.
And like, you get football fatigue, I think. And maybe I'm alone in this. Like, I know people really, 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 really love football, and I love football. But I think you can burn out on football a little bit. And I think that there is such a thing as football fatigue that you get later in the season, especially because you get around the holidays and the NFL is asking for every night of your week. It's asking for Thursday, and it's asking for Saturday, and it's asking for Sunday, and now it's asking for Black Friday, and now it's asking for Christmas. It wants every night of your week by the time November and December rolls around. And that's exhausting. Honestly, if you want to follow the league and you love to, even if you love watching the games, that's a lot. It asks a lot of you. And I think having a week to sort of decompress from it and then sprint to the finish might actually be really good for the product. Something to think about.
No, it is. Absolutely.
Next headlines for me. We're just going to sprint through some NFL notes here to wrap up the headline segment here. Lots of things going on in the National Football League today. We'll have a little bit of commentary on these headlines. 49ers wide receiver Brandon Ayuk, he's going to training camp after all, has decided that he will report. 2 teams are at odds about a contract extension, and Ayuk has put in a trade request, but he is ready to report to training camp. He's ready to stop forfeiting that money. The Miami Dolphins needed a pass rusher after the sudden retirement of Shaq Barrett. They have re-signed former Chief and former Dolphin Emmanuel Ogbah, who was with the team last season. Hassan Reddick's not at Jets camp. He's yet to report. He wants the final year of his deal redone, more so than wanting an extension. Reddick was traded from the Eagles to the Jets this offseason. Back to the Dolphins. Odell Beckham Jr. will start this season on the PUP list. Stop me if you've heard this one before. Odell Beckham Jr. is hurt. Oh, my God, that never happens. He will start the year on the, or at least start training camp on the PUP list. A couple of young players getting contract extensions. Minnesota left tackle Christian Darrisaw, 4 years, $113 million, $77 million guaranteed. The Jacksonville Jaguars have extended cornerback Tyson Campbell, 4 years, $76.5 million. He is the highest paid cornerback without a Pro Bowl appearance to his name in NFL history.
I know Jags fans thought he should have gotten a Pro Bowl nod 2 years ago. Fair enough. He's good.
Yeah.
Do you give that extension to just good? I don't know.
The Jaguars seem to love giving big contracts to good.
Yeah.
They love
That's
to reward good. And it's kind of why they're stuck where they're stuck. Those are some of the NFL news and notes, and that'll wrap up this edition of the 580 Sports Talk headlines. When we come back, Royals D-backs Game 2 preview. We have the lineup. It's certainly something. We'll talk about it on the other side of this break in the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. But first, a word from Calhoun's Jewelers.
Yes, I wanted to remind you guys to go visit my friends at Calhoun's Jewelers. Whatever jewelry needs you have. Maybe you're looking for a gift for that special someone in your life. Maybe you need something taken care of, repaired, cleaned, whatever it might be. They've got a huge selection and an incredible staff at Calhoun's Jewelers who can help you in whatever way you need for all of your jewelry needs. You can check them out online at calhounsjewelers.com or visit my friends in person at 1801 Southwest Gage Boulevard here in Topeka.
We'll take a break, come back with more from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio on 580 Sports Talk. .30 right at the bottom of the hour on the final hour of 580 Sports Talk for this Tuesday. Dan, Brendan, Spencer, Trenton with you.
You know, just side note, not really relevant to anything we've talked about today.
No, when have we ever done that before on this show?
So did you see the headline last week that Nick Saban was stopped at SEC Media Day because he didn't bring his credential?
I did see that, yes.
Like, I'm Nick Saban. Why do I need a credential? So keeping that topic in mind, you know how the Packers also do at training camp, all the players or many of the players pick a kid in the crowd. All sorts of little kids bring their bikes to training camp in Green Bay. And then the Packers players ride them into the practice facility and then they sign autographs. And it's actually the same kid every day. Like every player is paired with one kid. It's such a cool tradition. Well, Matt LaFleur's son was one of the bike kids and was on his bike following his dad into the building today, and the kid was stopped by security and was like, "Hey, no, sorry, bike kids aren't allowed in here." And I don't know what his son's name is, but he stopped at the gate and he goes, "Dad!" And LaFleur turns around and just says, "That's my son." Back over. Very, very funny.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Royals baseball tonight. We're going to hand off to the Royals Baseball Network in a little under an hour now. 6:30 pregame, 7:10 first pitch from the K tonight. Royals going for a series win over the Diamondbacks after a 10-4 thrashing last night. Alec Marsh on the hill for the Royals. We saw him for an inning in relief in the Friday night game against Chicago. He'll be making his first start since the All-Star break. He'll face this lineup for Arizona. Corbin Carroll will lead off. I want to apologize. I misled our listeners earlier today, and I want to apologize for that. We were talking about Corbin Carroll in the context of, would he be the guy the Royals would want to throw at in retaliation for Bobby Witt Jr. getting hit last night? And I said, it wouldn't be Corbin Carroll because nobody throws at 220 hitters. That was not fair to Corbin Carroll. It was actually too charitable to Corbin Carroll. He's not even a 210 hitter. He enters tonight batting 209.
Yikes.
That is their leadoff hitter tonight. Ketel Marte, the All-Star, will bat second. Jock Peterson hits third. Then Christian Walker, the first baseman. Lourdes Gurriel Jr., the left fielder, rounding out the middle of the order. Gabriel Moreno, the catcher, who was the one who got hit by Schreiber last night in retaliation, bats sixth. Then the third baseman, Eugenio Suarez. Center fielder Jake McCarthy and shortstop Gerardo Perdomo, bats ninth. Very different looking lineup against the right-handed throwing Marsh than it was against the lefty Reagans last night. Meanwhile, Kansas City faces a left-hander, Jordan Montgomery, who was recalled from the injured list today and has been pretty terrible since signing his deal with the Diamondbacks. He was a World Series hero last year for the Rangers and waited on a big payday that never came and then signed with the Diamondbacks pretty late in spring training. Jordan Montgomery and Blake Snell will be the first to tell you, I think, that actually it's important to have a spring training.
Yeah. I remember we were talking about would the Royals potentially sign Jordan Montgomery.
It would not have been a terrible idea if
the time
they'd done it in like February.
Yeah.
You know, instead the Diamondbacks have signed Montgomery in late March, and he's 6-5, but his ERA is 6.44. And he has just 45 strikeouts and 65 2/3 innings. So the Royals will send out some right-handers against him, including leadoff man Garrett Hampson, who is in center field tonight. So it's an off game for Kyle Isbell. Garrett Hampson gets a crack at the leadoff spot tonight, followed by the hottest player in baseball, Bobby Witt Jr., Vinny Pasquantino, Salvador Perez, Hunter Renfroe, the heart of the order. Renfroe's in right. Vinny's DHing. Salvi's at first. Freddie Fermin will do the catching bat sixth. Then Michael Garcia at second base, followed by Nick Lofton at third, and Dairon Blanco batting ninth in left field. So the right-handers are all in the lineup. Man, I just don't get the whole move Garcia to third base. Nick Lofton can play a fine second base.
Yep.
Like, I think your infield is better leaving Garcia at third. And I think Garcia is a better hitter when you don't yank him around in the field and you let him focus on the one position that he's played most of the season. I do not agree with this.
Well, it's so strange because that's been something they've emphasized so much, is just leaving guys where they are and not making them focus on a bunch of different things so they can get right at the plate. It is very odd. I mean, are there splits for Michael Garcia that are better when he's at second base versus when he is a third baseman?
I don't think so. I wouldn't think that was the case. And the bats started to pick up, as evidenced by Garcia being bumped up in the lineup a little bit. All bat seventh tonight after he's been batting eighth. He had 2 hits last night. Royals have gotten good production from the bottom of their order these first 4 games of the post-All-Star break, and not coincidentally, they've won all 4 of them.
So I went to Baseball Reference to do a little research here. As a third baseman this year, Michael Garcia is batting .252, .302 on base, OPS of 666. Keep that away from me. As a second baseman, he's batting .122 with an on base of 182. So not only is it disjointed, he's actually really, really bad offensively when he has played second base this year. Small sample size, but still.
Yeah, I don't think that where you stand on the diamond has a correlation with how you hit necessarily, but I do think that asking a guy to switch position by position. I mean, that's a rare thing that guys are able to handle. The guys who are really good at that are the guys who have long careers. Your Ben Zobrist, your Sean Figginses, like guys like that who can play one position and play a different one the next night and be whatever you need them to be. That's a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing to do physically. It's a hard thing to do mentally. And it's a hard thing to manage while you're in the middle of a batting slump, which Garcia really has been for the better part of the last 2 months, though, as we mentioned earlier in the show, he's had a much better July, hitting 292 so far in the month of July.
I just hope we get the good Alec Marsh tonight because, there's two different Alec Marshes. There's the good Alec Marsh that had a no-hitter going into the 7th inning against the Yankees, and then there's Alec Marsh that really sucked against the Rays. That's the one that stands out where he tried to pick off, I can't remember the guy, like Richie Palacios at second base 3 times and failed, and then as he was walking guys, it was like, bro, do you want to play? Like, come on. Like, I just hope we get the good Alec Marsh tonight because they need it.
So what's fascinating about Marsh is his splits are very wonky. He has a much better record in ERA at home. He's 4-2 with a 3.97 earned run average at home, but he's striking out less than a batter per 9 at home. And his opponent's batting average against at the K is 2.54. Meanwhile, on the road, he's got a 5.11 ERA, but he is striking out a batter per 9, and opponents are only hitting 2.29 against him.
I think you mean a batter an inning.
Yeah, batter. Yeah,
not
batter
striking out a single batter per 9 would be not very good.
Yes, 9 per 9. Yeah, a batter per inning. Sometimes I get the verbiage backwards in my head. Also, interesting to note for Marsh, the reverse platoon split he's had this year, right-handers hit him dramatically better than left-handers do, and Torey Lovullo has stacked his lineup with lefties tonight. Peterson and Carroll and Perdomo's a switch hitter. Lefties only hitting 228 against Marsh compared to 262 for righties.
Interesting.
So we'll see how that strategy goes for the D-backs tonight. Do you think we will see some more hostilities?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Torey Lovullo, oh yeah.
I don't know. I think both teams are going to be willing to leave it. But I'll tell you what, if somebody does run one a little too far inside to somebody tonight, the umpires are going to jump in and issue warnings right away. The umpires will be on notice.
The Diamondbacks have always kind of been a red-ass team. Like, their whole history.
Yeah, Kirk Gibson was their manager for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So that should tell you.
Bob Brenly.
Yeah.
Bob's got some other issues, too.
I have never liked the Arizona Diamondbacks. The only thing I liked that they did was beat the Yankees in the World Series. When and even then, that was when the Yankees were like at their most sympathetic because it was post 9/11. Like that was when America decided to pause hating the Yankees for just a little bit.
You would have been what, 16 at the time?
I would have been 15.
15 at the time?
Yeah. 15.
So were you too young to have developed your no new champions take?
Yeah, no new rings is a relatively new philosophy for me. Yes,
right, fair enough.
So yeah, I didn't mind at all. Plus, I mean, as a left-handed pitcher myself, I always really liked Randy Johnson, who's one of my favorite players.
Sure.
So speaking of red ass, and that was a great World Series, one of the great modern World Series, certainly. Even without the backdrop of like all the everything that was going on in New York at the time, that's a World Series for all time, and it's probably the least annoying the Diamondbacks have ever been. To me, as a fan of another NL West team, they're just super annoying always. Like Eric Burns, super annoying.
When he would sprint around the bases,
just the most annoying.
Their uniforms were a lot better back then. Oh wow, red and black. Ooh. Bring back the purple and teal. Come on.
Very stupid uniforms. Like they're changing uniforms every 3 years. Their good ones now are the ones that are the color of warm urine. They're
the Serpientes.
Yeah,
one?
the Serpientes, the City Connects.
Yeah,
that's their best uniform set, and it's still a very off-putting color. We're gonna take a break here at 580 Sports Talk. We got a round to name that guy to play next, but first,
gonna give away. Okay.
It's time to hit up the DM Injury Law Royals ticket window. Have you or a loved one been in a car wreck? Contact DM Injury Law today and get the money you deserve. Car wreck? Remember, Mike's got this. I've got a pair of tickets for tomorrow night's Royals game. That's tomorrow night, Wednesday night, Royals Diamondbacks at the K. 7:10 first pitch. Not a day game. Important to note. A lot of Wednesdays have been getaway days, have been day games. Tomorrow is a night game, 7:10. If you want to go, I'll take caller number 2 at the break to 785-272-9429. Caller number 2 wins a pair of tickets to tomorrow night's Royals game. We'll play Name That Guy when we come back on 580 Sports Talk. Congrats to Tyler, our ticket winner today. He's going to see the Royals and D-backs tomorrow night at the K, but stay listening. We're going to go back to the DM injury law ticket window plenty throughout this week. We had somebody earlier on the Top Email Supply text line from the 785 ask us if we were going to do a family 4-pack for Friday. That's the Cubs and Patrick Mahomes bobblehead night. That's a really good idea. Texter from the 913.
Yeah.
Be listening. We might do that tomorrow.
I think we can make that happen.
I think we might do that tomorrow.
Look, these listeners, they're in for it this year, right? You guys did this last year, right?
Give away tickets?
Yeah, we gave away tickets.
You gave away tickets last year to a team that won 56 games.
Yeah.
You're giving away tickets this year to a team that's won 56 games by July 23rd.
Beautiful
I know,
thing.
people have been begging for good baseball. It's finally here.
Yeah, no kidding. We made it beyond training camp, in fact. It's a beautiful thing. All right, you know what else is a beautiful thing? Remembering guys. And that's what we're going to do with our third installment of what has become Talk PC2, please, Trenton, our quiz master / producer engineer. It is time for round 3 of Name That Guy.
Oh, God. Don't. Nope.
Nope.
Abort.
Kill it. Squash
Abort.
it.
No.
Squash it.
No.
Nope.
Ad. No free ads.
Never mind. No theme music this time. Just the Quizmaster Trent Kraxner.
All right. Believe.
AG1 swooped in and stole my thunder.
Oh, dear.
I believe we have co-reigning champions from last week.
We do. Spencer won the first round. Brendan and I shared the spoils. They were harder last time. There were a couple we didn't get.
So
Shout out to Dion Lewis. I ended up using Dion Lewis in the Immaculate Grid
Boom.
after that.
That's a good poll.
Yeah, I used it up a little bit. That way we can break the little 3-way tie that
All
we have
right.
going on.
Everyone's got a point.
Yes. Just call it Jeopardy Masters, the way we're building up points. All right.
Let's do it.
Per usual, we'll start in the NFL.
All right. NFL guy. No looking, no peeking on the log, guys.
Saints, 1993 to 1996. The New York Jets in 1997. The Buccaneers in 1998. The Titans, 1999 to 2000. Bengals, 2001 to 2002. Chargers, 2003 to 2007. The Ravens in 2008. And the Raiders in 2009.
Huh. So Saints to start his career.
I think I know.
Big chunk with the Chargers. Lorenzo Neal.
Yeah.
That is correct.
That was my guess.
Yeah, that was where I was going to. We did have to change it because I did see it and I admitted to seeing it. Because I'm an honest guy.
You just wanted to shout your integrity from the rafters.
Yeah.
The legend of Josh Johnson, who's been on, I don't know, as many teams as I am old.
We don't have enough time for you to read all of his teams.
Yeah, so
you would have been there.
Anyway.
You'd have been like the Omaha Nighthawks or whatever they were in the UFL, and we would have been like, wait, we know this one. Actually, no, he wasn't an Omaha whatever. He was like a
St. Louis Fleet.
Like a
I think.
Sacramento Knight Rider or some nonsense. What was that? Was like the original UFL?
Yeah.
USFL, right?
No, the UFL.
No, it was literally a league called the UFL. They had a team in Omaha. Yeah. Yeah. Michael Wilhoit played in the old UFL.
Yes, the United Football League, 2009 to 2012. You had the Florida Tuskers, the Sacramento Mountain Lions, Omaha Nighthawks, Hartford Colonials, Las Vegas Locomotives, and Virginia Destroyers. You're telling me you didn't go out to the Virginia Beach Sportsplex and catch some Destroyers football with head coach Kurt Schottenheimer?
You know who played on that team at one point, the Virginia Destroyers? Jay Gruden. Fun fact.
That is a fun fact.
Thinking what league I was thinking of was the AAF.
Don't even get me started on Tom Dundon ruining the AAF.
Because the only reason I remember that is because shortly after he was on the San Diego Fleet, he signed with the Washingtons.
How about that?
Yeah.
All right.
Played in a lot of spring leagues.
1 point for Dan. We go to the NBA next?
Yes, the NBA.
All right.
Grizzlies 2013 to 2014. The Cavs in 2014. Suns 2015. Kings 2015 to 2016. Mavs 2016 to 2018. Trailblazers 2018 to 2019. Mavs 2019-2020. 76ers 2020 to 2022. Nets 2022 to 2023. Mavs 2023 to 2024. And now with the Charlotte Hornets as of this upcoming season.
Spencer Dinwiddie.
That is incorrect.
Oh!
Spencer Dinwiddie just signed back with the Mavs the other day. I saw.
This guy's been on the Mavs 3 times, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Oh,
His
Seth Curry.
That's where I was going
That
to
is
go.
Seth Curry. Yes.
The Mavs 3 times was triggering
That was the
something in my
giveaway.
head.
Yep.
The guy that was supposed to be better than Steph.
He went to Duke.
He did. He did go to Duke. All right. Point for Brendan. What's next?
MLB.
All right. This is where I'm a Viking.
Cubs 2005 to 2008. Orioles 2009. Red Sox 2010 to 2012. At the time, the Cleveland Indians in 2013. Angels 2014. Yankees 2014. Red Sox again in 2015. A's 2016. Dodgers 2016 to 2019. Twins 2020, Rays 2021, Mets 2021, the Red Sox for a third time in 2022, the Pirates in 2023, and the Padres in 2023.
I think I saw this player pitch in 2021.
Do you have a guess?
His name's Rich Hill.
That is correct. It's Rich Hill.
Oh, wow.
Pitching at
pitch
43
at
years
Mad
old
Park.
last year. At 43 years old. He got traded like the Padres thought he was going to help their playoff chances.
That did happen.
Yeah, the Cubs breaking in, and then all those teams late in his career should have been the tip-off. He was moving from team to team like crazy.
Yeah.
Rich Hill always had a great curveball. Never really had anything else that was all that good. And then somewhere down the line, somebody told him, hey, what if you just threw your curveball all the time? And that made him millions of dollars.
Yes, it did.
All right. The NHL is our tiebreaker for today. Let's see how this goes.
All right. Edmonton Oilers, 1995 to 1997. Sabres, 1997 to 2004. Islanders, 2005 to 2008. Penguins, 2008 to 2009. And then the Bruins, 2009 to 2010.
You got me there.
Edmonton to Buffalo.
You said he started his career in 94?
95 with the Oilers.
For 14 years,
Ooh.
15 years.
Asked me to name a Buffalo Sabre. Ridiculous.
So Sabres for the big chunk of his career. And he finished with
the Bruins.
Finished with the Bruins. Who was he after the Sabres? I'm asking this like
The Islanders from 05 to 08.
Sabres, Islanders. Gosh. What? It's not a goaltender, is it?
I don't remember. I don't think.
Okay.
I don't think that was what
That's
possession he
not
played.
fair for me to ask for a hint.
Tuomo Ruutu.
No.
I don't think he played for any of those teams.
Miroslav Shatan.
Miroslav Satan. It's like spelled Satan. I don't know.
Yes.
Is that what he said?
Yes, that's what I said.
Yeah, that's what he said.
You're correct.
Yes!
Oh, Dan wins.
That's just a made-up name.
Yeah,
that's not a real
that's not a real name.
The Buffalo Sabres
The
aren't a real
Slovak ice hockey player.
Yeah, there's no chance.
Miroslav Shatan. Yes, it was spelled Satan. Satan. Yes!
No.
In your faces. Puck knower, Dan Lucero.
I'm not upset about not getting a hockey one. I don't know.
Today's
About a
champion.
guy that played before I was born, the start of his career.
You can claim you're not upset all you want. I know you're mad that I won.
I am mad you got it right. That's more what I'm not
Yes.
mad I lost. I'm mad you got that right.
Boy, I pulled that
How
one
did
out
you
of my
pull that
clavin.
one
The Sabres. I just remember him being a Buffalo Sabre. I do not remember him as an Oiler at all.
Who's this big Sabre now? Eichel? No, he left.
No, Jack Eichel got traded to Vegas.
To Vegas,
The
that's
big,
right.
the big Sabre now is that they have no big Sabres because they trade all their guys immediately after they get good. Yeah.
More like broadswords.
Shout out to Miroslav Shatan. That is great. Oh, man. I'll be chortling about that one all night. Final word next on 580 Sports Talk. Final word time on this Tuesday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Spencer Dupuis will start us.
Yes, this will be the last time you hear from me on the airwaves this week.
Oh, thank God you added the this week clarifier.
Ever.
Burying the lead. Goodness.
Yeah, no, if that would have been a big announcement if that was a thing. But yeah, I'm going on vacation. Excited to get back to the homeland in the DC area and then go to see my favorite artist play and get to see some old friends back where I used to work this week. I'm going back to West Virginia on Thursday. Should be fun. But in the meantime, going to see the Royals, watch the Royals tonight on TV, and hopefully they can continue their hot streak as Bobby Witt Jr. hopefully continues his.
Enjoy the Shaka Khan concert. You said it was your favorite artist.
Yes.
And you didn't fill in the blank, so I filled it in for you. It's Luke Combs,
Luke
right?
Combs.
Yeah, you're going to see Luke Combs at Commander Stadium or whatever they're calling it these days.
Do you want to take a quick over-under how many times I will be mistaken?
I was going to say, congrats on the free beer.
Because last year it was about 25 times and about 10 free beers.
If they have a lookalike contest, I got you on the podium, at least. Bare minimum on the podium. Brendan, your final word.
Yeah, final word's pretty simple today. Bobby Witt Jr. at home this season has an OPS over 1,200. He is batting .411 in games at the K. I see no reason why that should stop tonight against a struggling and recently returning from injury Jordan Montgomery. He is an absolute joy to watch, and I'm excited to watch him a little bit more tonight.
And now a word from your Name That Guy champion for my final word today. My final word today is I am really interested how the Chiefs manipulate the secondary this year, how they choose to deploy their personnel in the defensive backfield. But we've been fascinated by it. It's been a big topic that we've had throughout this offseason. But now seeing it in practice, particularly with the injury to Justin Reid, it gives guys a chance to get some more reps in some different spots. And I wouldn't be shocked if we see a little bit more of Trent McDuffie in the slot this year than previously maybe would have been guessed at, because he is so good there. And the Chiefs have some other really viable options on the outside. I don't think Steve Spagnuolo can make a lot of wrong decisions with how he deploys his safeties, slot corners, and outside cornerbacks. It will be fascinating to see which ones he feels are the right ones, especially in two marquee matchups early in the season. That's going to do it for 580 Sports Talk today. We'll have some overtime until 6:30. We'll hear from Michael Swain of Fog.net. That'll take you up to Royals baseball. And then we'll be back with you tomorrow from 2 until 6. For Trenton Kraxner, Brendan Dworzinski, and Spencer Dupuis, I'm Dan Lucero from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. This is 580 Sports Talk.